Hello, everybody. Hello, Clarice, and welcome to another episode. Well, actually, this is our second time. Welcome back to the Thomas and Friends Retrospective review. I guess. I guess sort of a review or a podcast, whatever you guys want to call it. But yeah, welcome. But yeah, we're doing this again. Welcome back. So basically, Toy Bonnie, me, James, and Carter, we all had a lot of fun doing the last season review with the retrospective. And you guys also seem to like it as well too. Hold on while I'm doing that. Let me pull up the live stream and make sure. I'm covering. You probably can't. You're probably going to see it in the live stream, but I'm covering these guys' faces because honestly, I just can't stand them anymore. So.
Fuck you.
But anyway.
Fuck you.
I'm just kidding. I love all of you guys. I love all of you guys. I'm just kidding and such. But I'm also really doing this too, so I don't cover up Carter's presentation as well too. Which, by the way, everyone, make sure you thank Carter for this lovely slides that he did. He put in a lot of work for this retrospective, yes. So thank you very much, Carter. And also don't forget to thank Toy. Also, don't forget, let's thank Toy Bonnie and his dad as well, too, because we're doing Google Meets again, and thankfully, his dad found a way to make sure that we can have unlimited time with Meets, so we don't have to worry about, we basically don't have to worry about, switching out to Meets for, like, every hour and such, so we could do this game for as long as we want.
No need to worry about that, because I got all that covered, so the room we're on is going to be open all day, so no need to worry about moving for, like, for the time remaining or something like that.
Yeah. Alrighty, so yeah, so we're here for season 2 of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. A season that most Thomas fans agree that is one of the best seasons in either the classic series or just the show overall and everything. And basically, I can kind of see where they're coming from as being their favorite season and such. It is definitely a step up after the last season in terms of like story, characters, and even the settings and the sets as well. So I definitely do see where they're coming from when they say like this is the best season out of the whole show.
Yeah. To me, I think we already know what some of the best episodes are gonna be.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, like I said, I did season 2 a long time ago and stuff, so I'm sure some of my favorites, might be different to like what many people consider their favorite episodes of the series, but we'll get into that a little later.
Different favorites now.
I actually did it last year because I was supposed to review season 2 in 2018 after I did season 1, but I got so delayed because I had school and everything, so I kept pushing it off until August of 2020. That's when I decided, you know what, let's finish the script and let me review season 2, and I did it, and I have to agree, it's one of the best seasons of the show. Period. Yes, I said it. Period.
Alrighty. All right. Well, before we actually, I think we should introduce ourselves because we almost forgot to do that. So I'm Sakura Diesel, and these are my good friends that joined us in the last stream. We have my good friend Jonathan, aka that Toy Bonnie guy.
Or Space Train 1984.
Space Train, yeah, that's right. That's right. He has a new username now, so it's gonna get a while for me to try to pronounce.
Yeah, you can still call me Toy Bonnie. I really don't mind, guys. If you want to call me Toy Bonnie, go ahead. It's just that I changed my name for privacy concerns, so that's why. Yeah. So you can still call me Toy Bonnie if you want to. So yeah, hey guys, it's me, Toy Bonnie here.
So yeah, Toy Bonnie. We also got James over here.
What up, people of YouTube? You may have known me. It's been for a long time. I was having busy a lot over this past few weeks in this summer vacation, but I am going to be back to school on September the 16th. So
interesting. All right, and we also have our good friend Carter.
Hello, everyone. I am Carter, known on YouTube as Thomas the #1 E2 Tank Engine. Thank you for having me on the stream, Timmy.
You're very welcome. Again, it's very nice to have these people over here, coming together, talking about what we all love and everything, which is Thomas, and also giving our own little thoughts on how well does this show hold up. Because it's pretty soon, in just about 3 years, it's going to be over 40 years since this show was started on TV and such. So that's good. I know. That's that is definitely something. Alrighty, so so before we get into anything else, let us explain how this retrospective is going to be, because it's going to be a little bit different than what we did in season 1. So basically in season 1, we just basically did whatever episodes we wanted to talk about. We didn't cover all the episodes because I didn't want the stream to drag out for too long and everything. But
now we are doing all 26 episodes from season 2.
Yes, we are doing all 26 episodes because these three guys, thought about, you know what, let's try to do all the episodes for each season. So I figured, okay, well, how about one of us, reviews an episode one at a time and everything. So basically, the first Thomas episode, which is like Thomas, Percy, and Nicole, if either me, James, Carter, or Toy Bonnie want to talk about it, we'll let them talk about it. After they give their little thoughts, if there's anything we want to add to the episode or anything that we disagree on, we can go ahead and say it. If not, then we'll just move on to the next episode. Since there are 4 of us here and there are 26 episodes, we're going to try to make sure that at least 2 people review 6 episodes and the other 2 people review 7 episodes, just to make it, fair and such.
Then we're going to talk about the characters, both old and new.
Yes, the characters is also going to be something we're going to do a little bit differently. So basically, for the new characters, we're going to go ahead and talk about, them on the episodes they basically were introduced in. So basically, when we get to Save from Scrap, which is Trevor's episode that he was introduced, whoever is going to review Save from Scrap basically can also talk about. They could basically also talk about Trevor and basically his character, what they found, what they found interesting about him, or anything that might have changed during the show and everything. And basically, it'll just be the same thing for all the characters and such. And after that, and then basically, after we review all the episodes and all the characters, we'll talk about the music, we'll talk about the narration, as well as giving our final thoughts on the season overall. So hopefully, all that made sense to you guys.
Yeah, I also couldn't find a promo image of the Spiteful Break fan, so
that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we will be giving our thoughts on the music,
yes,
the narration, and then our final ratings and thoughts.
Exactly.
Also, I put this here since I thought some people would get the wrong idea.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of people. I'm gonna make this clear. Just a little disclaimer for the people that are watching the stream. When we get to season 7, the series is gonna go on a little bit of a hiatus until Sakoa and I do season 8 through 12, and then we'll come back and then we'll revive the series, and then we'll continue with 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and possibly Calling All Engines and The Great Discovery.
Basically, the whole series will be reviewed.
Exactly.
Basically, yes. So, alrighty.
I know some people would call this the final season of Thomas and Friends if I didn't put that note there, and I mean, they're half right, because this was the last season to feature Ringo Starr as narrator, and the last Clearwater features season in general.
That is very true, yes, and basically...
But on the other hand, there were way more seasons of this show to come.
There were, but basically, yes, as Carter mentioned, there was like a good long gap between season 2 and season 3, a 5-year gap to be precise. And that's mostly because, David Midden and Britt Allcroft basically, went their separate ways for a little bit, with David Midden making a new spin-off series called Tugs, and Britt Allcroft bringing Thomas the Tank Engine to America, and that's where, the Americans, if you were born in the late 80s, early 90s, you got Shining Time Station. And basically, Ringo Starr did narrated, the U.S. Some of the U.S. stories for Thomas until finally in 1989 he was, actually I should say 1990. I should say
1990.
Yeah. So basically 1990 is when he decided, he wanted to focus more on his music career, and basically, although he enjoyed Thomas and such, music was more his passion anyway. So till then, Britt had to look not only for a new narrator for the UK, but she had to look for a new narrator for the US as well. So that's another reason why it took a long time for season 3 to basically come out. But we'll get to that when we get to season 3 itself.
I'm not gonna lie, he made some good music after he left the show, because then the Beatles reunited for the anthology project, and then he continued the solo career.
Ringo may not Maringo may not be a part of the Thomas community anymore, but he still lives on in our hearts.
He does, and basically, from what I understand,
Yeah.
he still has a huge respect and soft spot for Thomas to this day. Same thing with George Carlin. You know, after George Carlin left the show, there's been interviews where, like, you know, he had a blast, you know, playing Mr. Conductor and Shining Time Station as well as narrating for Thomas. So
Yeah.
that says a lot about the show.
Even though he wasn't that kind to some of the shows he played on, because something happened on the set and he will usually insult the show, but he spoke very fondly of Thomas.
I think
all the time.
I think that was mostly because, like, you know, the producers sometimes, you know, will give him, like, you know, like a tight schedule and everything, and, like, you know, they were sometimes a little difficult to work around with and everything. So that's probably one of the reasons why, you know, the other shows you didn't remember that fondly. So
Yeah, exactly.
Shall we get this show on the road, everyone?
sure. Are there any other trivias or anything we want to say about season 2 before we start?
I want to say that this was also the last season for Robert D. Cardona to be the producer before, you know, Britt Allcroft came back, and then she became the producer in season 3 till 5.
Yes, that is also true, and I guess this will be also a good segue to the episodes itself. But this is also the first season where we not only get Reverend Audrey's stories, but we also get stories from Christopher Audrey as well.
And there is one episode. We'll get to it in a moment.
Yeah.
That I feel that the story is weak, and I would have liked it better if they did something. But we'll get to it in a moment.
All right. Well, I think I might know which one you are talking about and such. But yeah, basically, you know, Britt and David, you know, because they were still under contract that, like, you know, all the episodes had to be based on the books in some way. So basically, like what they did for the Reverend for season 1, they ran up to Christopher and be like, "Hey, can you make a book for season 2 for us? Not just one book, make 2 books. Actually, can we also take your annual too? We're probably gonna need that as well."
Yeah. I've always found that contract to be kind of bullshit, because like they couldn't do original stories.
I think I think what it was is that, like, cause like what I also understand, like, you know, the reason that, you know, Audrey was very, you know, protective on, like, you know, basically when Android Lloyd Webber wanted to bring Thomas into screen, is because he didn't want the Americans to get a hold of it, because, like, you know, he didn't want the Americans to butcher his series in any way, shape, or form.
Look what happened now in 2021.
Yeah.
With
To the
stu-
animator, though.
with the stupid reboot that I hope fails, so we can bring back the original show, because that reboot it's gonna tank. It's gonna fucking tank hard.
I mean, it might. You never know, but I mean, I also won't be surprised if, like, you know, if it does well somehow.
Alright, has everyone said what they want to say?
Yes. All right. So yeah, I think I think we got on long enough. All right. So the first episode we got is Thomas, Percy, Nicole, and James. You said you wanted to talk about the episode, so go ahead and talk about it and let us know what you thought of it.
Alright. And Thomas and Percy and Nicole, it's the story about when Thomas and Percy got a quarrel about a proper colorish for an engine, but both engines end up to getting in the trouble with Cole. So I like when in the part of the episode, though, from my opinion, I like it when Percy eventually makes fun of Thomas, and then unfortunately though he eventually pulled up the cards, and unfortunately though back up into the buffers and instantly derailed in that time until then. Until then, Cole eventually splattered and it flew off everywhere, all over up on Thomas. And I gotta say about this, like, one of the model makers done an amazing job though, by making up real colon dirt to make Thomas even more like dirty throughout the whole entire the model. Yeah, though, and is originally his face too. And during around here in the episode though, I like really how Thomas and Percy made a predicament argument though, because they're not even like friends no more, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Think that hold up, check the episode again. Hold up. Oh yeah, when Thomas though they even eventually like they even make it intel for his next train, so Toby eventually took over to collect Annie and Clarabelle to Thomas's branch line.
Okay.
Would you guys like to know a fun fact about this episode?
Go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
So, you know Time Station, right?
Yes, of course. I've never seen the show, but I do know about it.
Me neither.
I did have seen the
There was
show when I was little.
There was an episode called Win, Lose, or Draw, and in the Nick Jr. version of it, the scene of Thomas being cleaned and Toby taking Annie and Clarabelle was actually cut from the episode.
I really don't.
Oh, I
I
didn't
hate
realize
when
that.
they do that. I hate when they do that because it takes away some of the plot that's going on.
Basically, basically, they want to make sure, they have enough time for like the other shows and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's gonna go next? Want me to go or?
Sure. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add, or anything that you disagree with, or anything? Go right ahead.
I give that episode a 10 out of stars for a great and amazing episode.
Alrighty.
All right. So James was positive to this episode. I'm gonna be a little negative here.
Go right ahead.
I don't really like the story of this episode. It feels like this was written last minute because I don't like the way they just quickly proceed to like, oh, we're friends again. No, but I really wish they would have adapted Drip Tank. And if you guys remember, Drip Tank was the last story from the book that was written, more about Thomas the Tank Engine, that the stories, were written for television. The book that Christopher wrote. Well, I would have liked it better if they would have, if they had this episode be like Thomas and Percy breaking their friendship and they hate each other so much, and then we proceed to the next episode, and then in the next episode that's when they could have repaired their friendship. Yeah, because I feel they rushed it pretty quickly, and yeah, since I've seen this episode many times, I think like I would have felt better if they would have adapted Drip Tank into the series, but as it stands, I think it's an okay episode. In my review, I said that it was a good episode, and I still do think it's a good episode, but not that high like I rated in my season 2 review. So I'm gonna give it, if I had to rate it, I will give it like a very light good rating because of the potential story, being kind of eh. And I also find that it's weird that the coal hopper keeps pouring coal when there's no one around. I find that really distracting. But
Yeah, I have the same kind of complaint, but it's more of a nitpick.
But yeah, if I had to give it, I give it a low good episode rating. But yeah, it just stands. I think it's an okay episode. Anyway, next.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next episode, it is something that I did wanted to basically basically talk more about. It's just basically like how the story was rushed. Now again, this technically isn't really proven. But a lot of people speculate that this was the episode that replaced the missing coaches and such, because for the people that live on the rocks, the reason why that the missing coaches was not fully adapted and such, or at least that like why missing coaches was basically pulled out was because Brit thought the story was too complicated for the children to understand, and basically she needed another story to basically replace that one.
Yeah, quote unquote, too confusing. As if Bill and Ben were confusing.
I read the story and it's not confusing at all. The only thing I find confusing is the part where Sataba Nad says like number 9 why am you not taking the goods
and why have you not taken the goods?
It's predictable that Sataba Nad knows it's
Douglas. With Donald's tender.
It's very predictable that Sir Tobenhat knows that it's Douglas because I didn't realize till much later when I got older. But when he says "I see," it's like foreshadowing because he knows that Douglas is pretending to be Donald.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's pretty, interesting. Actually, you did brought up a good point. He seemed to be really smart to, catch up that, okay, yeah, to be like, okay, yeah, this is not Donald and such. Who are you? Basically, what I was also gonna add, like, I do agree with you. Like, I feel like, they wanted to replace, they wanted to replace the missing coach with, like, Thomas, with Thomas, Percy, and Nicole. And then, yeah, I also agree that they should have at least adapted, a drip tank. But then again, like, they also would have had to pick, like, another episode to be like, okay, well, which episode, are we also gonna get rid of to make room for this one? Basically, if they were to get rid of an episode, I would have picked either Percy Takes a Plunge or Thomas and a Missing Christmas Tree. I think any one of those two would probably be a good replacement for Drip Tank.
There's no. Never mind. I'll say it later, cause yeah, I don't want to get controversial. We'll get to that episode very soon.
All right.
I like Percy Takes a Plunge more than Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree. So I think the missing coach should replace the last episode of season 2, but we'll get to that later. All right.
Or bring back to, like, my season 4 review, because I feel like instead of Thomas, Percy, and Nicole, they probably could have adapted, Paint Pots of Queens instead. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, I think that probably would have been a lot more of a better opener to season 2 than Thomas, Percy, and Nicole, honestly.
Or they could just remove Thomas, Percy, and Nicole completely and just add the missing coach in there.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
So that there wouldn't be that much controversy.
What about Cows? Cows could have been a great season opener.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or Down the Line, whatever you want to call it.
Third episode for that season.
But basically, one more thing too. Do any of you want to talk about the narrators real quick for this episode?
Oh yeah, yes, I got one.
So obviously, Ringo Starr narrated this in the UK, and George Carlin narrated in the US.
Yes.
So who do you guys think did better?
Actually, I'm gonna disagree. I think Ringo Starr did a good job on this episode, both in the UK and the US, especially when Thomas is getting basically it's getting buried under the coal, like with Ringo Starr, you could basically hear Thomas getting really scared and basically basically just being like hey, get me out and such, or like, help, I'm choking and such.
Help,
I'm
choking.
I think he did a better job with but with like George Carlin, he was just like, help, I'm kind of in no danger, but help.
Yeah. In the U.S., in the U.S., they don't say the choking line because that would have caused a lot of controversy. Because the U.K. in the U.K. it's different than in the U.S. because in the U.K. you can pretty much get away with saying stupid on TV on a kids TV show, but in the U.S. if you dare say that, you're gonna get complaints.
I was gonna say, how does choking, cause controversy in the U.S., but then at the same time, we Americans do stupid stuff all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if kids somehow was choking choking other kids and such, and the TVs were just and everyone in the TV was just like, okay, we're gonna ban choking now, so we don't have kids choking other kids anymore.
Yeah, you're choking me to death.
Yeah.
I honestly agree with Timmy on this. I think the UK is better than the US.
Yeah, same here.
I have to agree. I agree because no offense to Carlin, I love Carlin, but I think Ringo Starr is better in this episode.
I mean, to be fair, George Carlin still, gives it his all too as well in this season. There's still plenty of episodes where George Carlin does do a really good job with his narration as well. I think what it was is just because much like with season 1, some of the episodes in season 2 were aired in 1991, and the others were aired in 1993 during the latter half of season 3. and I did mention this in my season 3 review, but sometimes you could kind of tell a little bit that basically his voice was changing a little bit, when he was narrating those certain engines, because you do hear like either for each engine, sometimes he'll either have like a different sort of pinching in their voice, or he'll give him like a completely different voice altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that's all for Thomas, Percy, and Nicole. Who wants to go for cows or a cow on the line?
I'll pass on this one. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about cows.
Carter,
I
do you
don't
want?
want to talk about Bertie's chase, so someone else can do this.
Okay, I'll go ahead and talk about cows.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, so nothing too much to say on the cow line and everything. But basically, basically, this episode is a fine episode. It's another episode where Gordon and Henry talk smack about Edward and such, and then they get their own comeuppance and everything, and they feel like super embarrassed and everything. I basically do like how in the end, Edward gets the last laugh, basically trolls both Gordon and Henry, just be like, well, so you talk shit about me being afraid of a cow, and here you two big engines are getting afraid of a cow, and both Henry and Gordon are just like, shut up.
Two big engines afraid of a cow.
Afraid rubbish. Speaking of the cow, George Carlin does actually win, points for this episode, because I definitely do love his mooing for the cow and everything. He does a really good impression of a cow and everything. So I gave him major props for that one.
It's pretty close to narration.
Yeah, you give him props for that.
It's pretty close to me on narration.
Yeah,
That's
basically.
how he sounded like.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
But I'm barely going to go with George Carlin's narration for this episode.
Also another fun fact. This is another one where a line was changed from the UK and the US. In the UK, it's applied to the cow and the calf are basically going to become hamburgers in the UK and everything. So I do understand why they wanted to change it for the US and everything. They probably didn't want PETA coming after them and everything and filing lawsuits.
Yeah. I'm glad they changed that line, because it would have garnered controversy.
Yeah.
But as I was gonna say about the thing.
Go right ahead.
I've always found it like a comedy thing, because that's not how a cow sounds like. Actually, Ringo started out good, but George Carlin with the.
That sounded like he was originally burping.
That's not how a cow's supposed to sound like.
You know what, Toy Bonnie? The way you just, did an imitation of a cow, you almost make it sound like, he's about ready to throw up.
You know what's better? He sounds like Blue was ready to take a shit. That's how it sounds like.
That makes the perfect excuse of why Henry decided to back up all the way to the station. He did not want to smell that puke.
Yep.
All right, that's enough jokes.
It's like, all right. So basically, for my rating of the cows, it's still a good episode. I probably give it 7 out of 10 and everything. Not the best and everything, but for a simple episode, it's still good. It's still memorable. And again, I do see a little bit on why some people say Edward kind of works a little bit better as a secondary character, because technically this is more like a Henry and Gordon episode than it is an Edward episode. But like I said, Edward still gets he still shines in this episode, especially at the beginning and the end. So like I said, I can't be too harsh with him.
He gets his true spotlight in this season.
He does. He really does.
We'll go into that later.
Although there is one episode, but we'll get to it later, that truly defies Edward, but we'll get to it later.
Yes.
We will not spoil it.
Spoilers! No, okay.
Spoil
Alright, I'm gonna give my rating for this episode real quick.
when I reviewed the season, I give it a good rating, and I still think it's a good episode. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say other than the cowling, the mooing, and everything. But other than that, yeah, I give it a good episode rating.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to add anything, or do you want to go to Bertie's chase, Carter?
Ooh, I
So I actually had to put 2 facts here because, well, I had to fill the left side. So, one, there was a deleted scene of this episode where Henry is shown on the bridge without his coaches. And 2, in Storytime with Thomas, this episode was aired alongside the second series episode, Daisy.
Interesting.
Who even remembers Storytime with Thomas? That
I
show
have
had,
no idea that show even existed. Like, you know, I basically never heard of it. So.
Oh, I
Well,
did.
I've only seen like 2 episodes just to check it out. I always skip the monthly because there was 2 episodes of Thomas, 1 song, and there was 2 episodes of Thomas. So I always skip the monthly thing because I'm not a huge fan of Magic Adventures monthly. I watched a little bit of it, and I got bored pretty quickly.
And I like how they eventually put one of the shots from there with Thomas, which is really cool throughout the sing along with Thomas.
It's interesting. It's interesting about that show because that show only aired before Thomas and the Magic Railroad was released, and they didn't bring it back when season 6 came out. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because season 6 and 7 were the only seasons not to be aired on TV, not counting season 8, where they took some episodes. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to topic. Bertie's chase.
Alrighty, so go ahead, Carter. You say you want to talk about Bertie's chase, so go right ahead. Carter, I think you muted your mic.
Yeah, the microphone is muted.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a moment. I think it's the there you go.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
So,
all right, go ahead.
So I find Bertie's Chase to be a really good episode. It shows that Bertie is a bus that will do anything to do something right.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I don't really blame Edward for thinking about being late. I mean, he didn't really see Bertie anywhere.
Well, I mean, technically in the beginning, like, you know, they did see Bertie, but like, but basically, like, you know, his fireman shrugged it off. He just shrugged him off being like, you know, oh, he's probably just, you know, going somewhere and such, so, you know, we don't have to worry about him. And then Bertie's just like, stop, I have Thomas as passengers. And he's like, shit, I gotta chase him.
Probably just going on a little tour with some other passengers or something.
I have a joke. I have a little joke.
What?
Do you see Bert? No, I see Bertie there. No, not to bother with him. He's probably taking his visitors to Disneyland so they can enjoy the ride there and fuck that blue train with a face.
Yep, that'll be really cool.
Anyway,
let's go back.
Anyway, as for the episode itself, I really like this episode. I love the chase. Like, the chase is really good. Like,
this episode lives up to its name.
It does. When you kind of think about it, it's almost kind of like a remake of Thomas and Bertie's race, except technically, you know, Edward's not really racing and such. Bertie's just chasing him because, you know, he has Thomas's passengers.
He's just getting chased.
Wait! I have Thomas's passengers, Edward. Wait. Yeah, it's all that he chopped off.
Is it me or do you guys like Bertie without the eyebrows? Because I'm not when they give him eyebrows, I was like, yeah, I don't like that look. I like him when he didn't have eyebrows.
Yeah, that is really true. I like it with the eyebrows though. Sometimes I like them to take it off.
And let's be real, Bertie's eyes, you know, in the newer seasons are edited because he didn't have an eye mechanism.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but yeah, this episode is pretty good. I love the chase.
Actually, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it this season or the next season when Bertie's eyes actually did start moving?
No, it was season 7. It wasn't until the very last episode of season 7, 3 Cheers for Thomas, that his eyes started to move.
Okay.
And if I think they're edited, I don't know if they fitted an eye mechanism on Bertie. I know they did on Trevor because Trevor had an eye mechanism for season 3, but they
Okay,
took it out.
then I might have been, I might have been thinking about Trevor then.
Yeah, because Trevor had it for just one episode. He had it for Edward, Trevor, and the Really Useful Party, but they took it out because it was too problematic.
Ah.
Yeah, just like the narrow gauge engines in season 4, they were very problematic behind the scenes. But anyway,
Yeah, I think this was a good episode. I would probably give it like a 9 out of 10.
Alrighty. Just
absolutely.
one. Go ahead, Toy Bonnie. What were you gonna say?
Now, I was gonna say the rating, so then you can get to what you were gonna say. I give this episode a good episode rating. It's very good. The music is good. The chase is good. Like everything, like just the chase alone makes this episode get into the good territory. But yeah, good rating. Anyway, go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna say, this is probably gonna be the last time I'm gonna compare narrators just for a little bit for now. But basically, this is another one where I think Ringo Starr does a much better job than George Carlin, especially like when it comes to Bertie. Because again, there were some moments in George Carlin where I did feel a little bit where Bertie was like out of breath, but basically in George Carlin, you can really feel Bertie going through like some kind of pain just to get these stupid passengers to Edward and such. I also love how in the end when Bertie does get to Edward and such, you can really hear Ringo Starr giving Bertie a panting voice, give that impression that he was really, really tired. Where George Carlin's just like, yeah, I gave you your passengers, now goodbye, get away from me.
Yeah, here's your passengers, now get the heck away from me.
Actually, you know what, Edward? Why don't you take him to Universal Studios instead of Disneyland? They have a much better feed over there.
I was gonna say that I love this scene at the end where Thomas compliments Bertie for doing a good job.
Yeah, and actually a fun fact, it actually does make a lot of sense when I think about it, and you're right. This episode was filmed at the same time as Better Late Than Never, because I think they used almost the exact same shots or at least the positions as well for how Thomas and Bertie were set up in that episode.
You are right, but you're also wrong because different shots were used for both episodes, so they didn't really have the same shots, I don't think.
Plus you gotta remember, Terrence Permain, who's the director of photography, he took pictures of every single scene, so they could have, put the characters in different positions so they can take pictures of the episode.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I can actually kind of see, someone doing another Thomas edit episode where they combine both Bertie's chase and Better Late Than Never together if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's
really cool.
Okay. All right. So basically, So James talked about the first episode. I talked about cows. Carter talked about Bertie's chase. So Toy Barney, you're gonna talk about Save from Scrap.
Oh, of course. Save from Scrap. That's an easy one for me.
Alrighty.
All right. What Carter wrote there is true. The first scene of the episode was filmed for the missing coach because in one scene before the camera fades into Edward, you can see James. God damn, stupid phone. Anyway, I love this episode. I love the introduction we get to Trevor. And you do feel sorry for him about that he's gonna be scrapped in a week. And let me get this out of the way. No, Trevor is not a P. You know what I mean. I don't want to say it.
I was gonna. You know what? It was either you or me, and I was gonna address this. So, yeah.
That word. I'm gonna get this out of the way. That word makes me sick. Makes me really sick when I hear it. I get dizzy when I hear that word. So I'm gonna address it as a P, just to be safe.
I understand. Wait, Toy Barney. So Toy Barney, you're gonna. Toy Barney, you're gonna address it as P.
P. Yes, that joke from the
basically some call me Johnny. Yeah.
So now that we got that out of the way, God, stupid phone. Anyway, now that I got that out of the way, this episode's pretty good. I love Edward begging them to save Trevor, and in the end he succeeds. Though I do feel that they could have shown the a little bit more of Trevor doing some work so they could test him out. But that's a minor complaint, and I love this episode. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it a very high good rating. And also fun fact, the scene where Thomas says, "What already? You're not that old." That scene became an icon for the series.
Basically, that was the main scene that Shiny Time Station would always use for their intros and such, and it was also the shot for the very first Thomas VHS. Thomas Gets Tricked.
It was used everywhere, including at the back of VHS. Whenever there was a VHS, in the back there was a picture of Thomas from that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was.
It wasn't until I think 2004 with season 8 that they stopped using it altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that scene became huge. Like it was used everywhere, from VHS to merchandise to Hornby, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the James Learns a Lesson VHS used an image from Old Iron.
Yeah, that's true. Before we get to that episode, like I said, this is the episode where Trevor was introduced. So, does anyone want to talk about Trevor as a character real quick? Anything interesting about Trevor? You guys want to add real quick?
Well, we can. You want to talk about him now, or you want to wait till? We could talk about it now, cause why not? Cause I think it would be interesting to at least talk about the characters they were introduced in, as well as how do we feel about their introduction, as well as their the characters from season 2 overall. Yeah. I'll of course I'll talk about Trevor. Right. Trevor, I love Trevor. Trevor is one of my favorite characters from this season. Not one of my favorite characters overall. If I had to make a top 5, he wouldn't be in the top 10 or top 5. But I really like him. It's nice to see him appear once in a while, and I love that he likes helping children and giving them rides. And I already said about that thing that we're not going to talk about it again, because it makes me. To be honest, it's just one of those jokes where people like to make while sounding edgy or trying to sound cool or everything when basically it's not really that funny. So yeah. It's not funny. Yeah, to me it's not funny at all. It makes me very sick.
Yeah.
So there was one occasion where I found it funny where they gave him like a ticket in a YouTube poop I was watching, but that was the only one I found funny. Other than that, no, I don't like the joke. Yeah. It's unfunny.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say whoever makes those jokes is not funny, and whoever makes those jokes is get some help.
I think Save from Scrap is a 10 out of 10.
Definitely. Definitely. I really do love Save Him Scrap a lot, because again, I guess I'll go next to what I find interesting about Trevor is Toy Barney said and everything. It's just he's just a really interesting character that has been through a lot and such. Basically even in the Railway series, we've learned that we've also learned that he was still a really useful tractor, even when all the new modern tractors would break down as well. Honestly, when you think about it, he's almost kind of like Edward, if Edward was a tractor, and that he's old and wise, and basically what I'm saying, Trevor knows he's old and everything, and it's probably the best of shape, but he doesn't let that stop him from having fun or trying to be really useful and helping out in the fields, or making children smile and such, or basically doing any work that needs to be done and such. And honestly it's no question as to why he and Edward are best friends, because they do have a lot in common and such. And to be honest, I always thought as a kid, I kind of wish we had more episodes with with both Edward and Trevor, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they didn't make too many of them, because basically they probably didn't have too much of an idea of what they wanted to do with both of them. But at the same time, it's very nice that that Edward gets a best friend like Trevor and such. I think I think those two work really well together.
Yeah.
This is what I say. What is one of the greatest episodes from season 2?
Before you say it, I'm gonna attend a phone call real quick. So yeah, go ahead, talk about the episode. I'll be back when we get to Old Iron.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. Well, while we wait for Toy Bonnie, James, Carter, is there anything you guys want to add about either about this episode or about Trevor itself, or?
Oh yeah, I got eventually one question about this opinion of this episode. In the beginning, in the scene where Thomas was pulling the trucks, where Gordon was originally pulling the express, we could see that James was having cut out throughout the last day. The only one that we usually see is his number 5 tender.
Yes.
And also about this episode, here where Trevor eventually dreamed about the forest and dreamed about the taking rights to the children and the adults that you tell around the whole entire of the countryside. And hold up.
All right. Actually, there is another fun fact about this episode too. This was one of the last two. This and A New Friend for Thomas, aka Thomas and Trevor, were the last 2 episodes for season 1 of Shining Time Station. And another fun fact: these 2 episodes that Ringo Starr narrated did not make it into home video until way later, in I think it was like 2011 and such, with one of the other compiled Thomas DVDs and such.
Was it Engine Friends?
I think that might have been it. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it might have been Engine Friends, and where these 2 episodes were finally released to home media. So right now, as of right now, the last 2 episodes that Ringo Starr narrated, Percy's Ghostly Trick and Woolly Bear, those were the only 2 episodes that have not been released to home media yet.
Alright, shall we move on to Old Iron?
Sure. Alright, so who wants to talk about Old Iron then?
I do.
You want to talk about it, Toy Bonnie? Alright, go ahead. Hello?
Okay, Toy Bonnie.
Oh, James, sorry. Okay, go ahead, James. You can talk about Old Iron.
Oh, okay. Alright. Yeah, I just raised my hand up. Okay. About the episode Old Iron, in the beginning, the most of the funniest part of the episode has to be when Edward eventually came in into his station at Wellsworth, and then eventually James was originally so cross and mad about as well too. And I like Renee, and I really do eventually love George Carl's narration. I like how he said "late again."
Yeah. Actually, I do agree with you. At least in terms of the beginning, George Carlin does win points for making James actually pissed off at Edward and such. You can really, you can really hear James. It's just done with Edward and such. But I said Ringo. But I think Ringo Starr does it a little bit better, at least in terms of the chase scene. But George Carlin also does a good job with the chase scene as well.
Old Iron, slow. Why, Edward could beat you in a race any day. Really? I should like to see him do it.
Here's another fun fact I just want to bring up real quick. This is just more me. But basically, when I was a kid and such, you know how in the end, in the last episode, Save from Scrap, that we see Edward pulling coaches as he passes by Trevor? As a kid, basically as a kid, I always thought he was pulling those coaches. I always thought those were the same coaches that he was pulling when we see him, enter into station in Old Iron.
All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hey, James is talking about Old Iron.
Yeah. Are there any opinions
Iron?
if you don't like me about the episode?
You know what I like that this season introduced that I forgot to mention is that this season was the first one to introduce the Red Express coaches. You know, the red ones.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cause I've always liked when Gordon pulled them. When Gordon pulled them, but he rarely pulled them. He very rarely pulled them.
hmm And he also pulled the Red Express coaches from Gordon takes a tumble on Series 6 back in 2002.
Oh
And
yeah, he did pull them. Yeah, he did pull them in that
yeah.
episode. I forgot about that episode.
Oh yeah, back then when I was originally little, I was originally so surprised though when I was originally watching in my Percy's chocolate crunch on VHS and DVD and such.
Mm-hmm.
And I was then like, wow, Gordon could pull the Red Express coaches. Normally, eventually, Henry could pull it, James could pull it, and such, and many other engines as well too, and especially Duck as well.
Yeah. But
Yeah, so I
anyway,
forgot about them as
Anyway,
well.
so I was gonna. All right. So who was talking about Old Iron? Because I want to go.
James was. So is there anything else you want to say about Old Iron, James, or do you want someone else to take a turn real quick?
Oh yeah, there was originally something else that I had to originally say about old Iron before I eventually like takes take somebody's turn to talk about it.
All right, go right ahead. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, about this originally in this episode when the single man eventually just saw James puffing away down up the line without no driver, and like when how George Collins said all traffic halted, called the single man.
Yeah, George Carlin wins points with that one because with Bingo Star he's like all traffic hold it. It's just a runaway train. No one need to panic or anything. It's not like it's gonna crash to your house or anything. Just all traffic hold it.
Oh,
You know something. You know something about this episode that I find funny in the original story. The original story, the ending was quite dark.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say it was like dark, but it is something a little bit different that most would have questions about. Basically, for those that don't know, in the original story, the boys were eventually caught by the police. The two boys that were responsible for the runaway James. They were caught by the police and they were given a good smacking by their fathers.
Yep. And then I said, get on the ground now.
I honestly think that they should have adapted that.
Me too. That would have been cool.
I think you know what I kind of understand why they didn't want to include that in, because one, they probably didn't want to get lots of complaints from parents and such, and two, this was also the model series as well, so I can imagine they probably didn't have the budget to try to do any stop motion spanking or anything like that.
They let it slide with Pingu, and the Pingu runs away when Pingu's mom slaps him on the back because he.
Yeah, that was a good thing. I could tell that was a really good slap though, but a little bit violent, but good.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit violent, and I understand that I got banned because of that scene. And it was very violent. I will admit.
Pingu gets banned for being a little too violent, and yet shows like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes where literally anyone can blow up each other is A-okay with kids.
Well, yeah, because because society was different back then. Things have changed in the 80s.
Well, actually, yeah, it did change from the 80s to 30s, 50s. Anything changes.
Yeah, I think this is also one of the best episodes from season 2.
And it's actually the very first episode in the season where we get a runaway.
Yes,
Yep.
That's correct.
Facts.
Yeah.
And the infamous runaway theme.
Basically, this is one of the more memorable runaway scenes in any of Thomas history and such. And basically, just the fact that this also happened in real life is also another bonus as well too with this runaway.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I think I should say the rating for my this episode because I will give this episode when I reviewed this episode, because for the ones that don't know, I reviewed season 2 back in 2016. I was I was 13 years old, and back then I was like Tim, that I will watch the episode one time and then I will give the episode a rating, and I quickly found out that that wasn't a good idea. I give this episode like an A rating back then. That was what I would used to call the fairway rating before. And back then, and then looking back, I was like, what was I on, crack or something?
Like, why would you? Why would you give this episode a low rating if
I
it's
was.
a great episode?
The problem was that I was like,
he was just a small little teenage boy that didn't know anything.
yes, that is right. It's just that back then I wanted to get the review done as fast as possible, but without giving giving any attention to the critical aspect of it. And I give it a that's why I give it a bad rating. But looking back, I feel ashamed for calling this a bad episode. But now I think it's a good episode. Now I think I really think it's a good episode because that the runaway scene alone, and you know
you know what, I will say, as a kid, I've always loved that runaway scene, just mostly because of like the really great directing and camera shots they got with it, as well as the beautiful shots they did with the rope, trying to swing it over James's buffers. I mean, even still looking at that scene, it's really well directed in film, and especially edited as well. They did a fantastic job with that runaway scene.
Yeah, they did a great job with that scene. That rope was like, it felt so real. Like you were right there throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like you were throwing it. Yeah, I have to give this episode props for the amazing directing. So yeah, a very high good episode rating.
Alrighty. All right. Anything else we want to add, or should we move on?
One opinion of things today about this episode, I really do eventually love the chase scene though, where eventually James acting like he was originally moving all by himself though without his driver, but unfortunately though when James eventually got shot until then though, unfortunately he doesn't realize that he doesn't even have no driver.
Another fun fact I want to point out is that a lot of people think that the shot of the buffer, with the rope.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that was James, but that was not James on that shot. That was actually Thomas's large scale model.
Oh.
They just edited. They just edited. They just took out They just took out the lamp, that was on that large scale model, and then they pretended it was James.
Oh yeah, I like how they eventually did that though to make this episode.
I'm impressed how they managed to get away with it, like using Thomas's model for that scene. I'm impressed like how they managed to make it feel like it was James.
That is pretty good. Again, it shows a lot of hard work and dedication each team had with the show.
Well, shall we move on to the next episode, Thomas and Trevor?
Alrighty. All right. So, who wants to talk about Thomas and Trevor?
I think I should.
Yeah, I will.
All right, go right ahead, Toy Barney. This is yours.
All right. So, I think I review. All right. So, I've reviewed 2 episodes so far, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is your second episode, and James already reviewed 2 episodes as well.
All right, so yeah, because there's one episode I want to save for last because I'm gonna spend too much time on it.
All right, go right
ahead. This episode, I love this episode. It shows the bonding of 2 characters that you really don't get to see together that often, and I loved the interactions between Thomas and Trevor because I was like, when I first saw these 2 characters interacting, I've always felt there was some kind of magic. Because I felt they could do more episodes with them together, but unfortunately that didn't happen until season 20. But that's another story.
Yeah,
I love the scenes where Trevor working on the harbor, and Thomas saying, now you see now I can see what attraction engine can do, and I like that at first he was doubtful of Trevor, but then as he saw him working really hard, that's when he realized, yeah, this guy's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I really love the scene where Trevor was crying, but then Thomas comforted him like, "Don't worry, the vicar has plenty of work for you now, but I'll be back someday to get you."
I'll be back someday to get you. And Trevor's still waiting in that shed, waiting for Thomas to come back, but he never came back.
Oh boy.
True.
But yeah, this episode is pretty good. I love the interaction between Thomas and Trevor, and yeah, the episode is good. It's very good, so I give it a very high good episode rating, or an equivalent of 10 out of 10 harbors.
All right. So some interesting facts about this episode. Well, one fact is that this is the well technically not the only, but technically this is one of the few Thomas episodes to be based on a annual and such. And as I also mentioned in the season 2 review, this episode actually came out first before the actual annual story came out. which is actually a little bit interesting.
The annual came out. The annual came out a year after the episode aired.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was original to be in the
Yeah, and also this is the first episode to be not to be based on the Railway series.
Yes, that's true. Although technically it was still written by Christopher Audrey, so technically they didn't broke the contract.
Yeah, they didn't break it, but yeah, a lot of people think that what was the first episode that wasn't written? Let me see. I think Gordon the Famous Visitor was yeah. I think no Joke for James was the first one not to be. No, Thomas Percy and the Dragon was the first one not to be based on the Railway series. But technically, if you want to count this one, yeah, it's not the first one. But I would say the first one that truly broke the contract was Thomas Percy and the Dragon.
Yeah, that's actually pretty true. Although to be fair, like we don't know for sure if the contract was broken or if or basically if Audrey decided to let Britt and David actually write their own episodes on his own will and such, because maybe he trusted them enough that that maybe he came up to them and be like, you know what, you guys did a real good job in the first 2 seasons, so if you want to write some original episodes for the show, go right ahead.
Yeah, I saw that as a good thing because I've always personally I personally found more the original stories to be quite good, except 2 of them. But we'll get to that when we get to season 3. I found them good because it was a breath of fresh air rather than having having to focus on another character, another new character all of a sudden.
Yeah,
and that was pretty evident in the Hit series where hey, look character, and then we'll never see him again.
Mm-hmm.
So I do give Britt a lot of credit for that because I can understand why she did it because it would have taken away screen time from the already established characters. So
yeah,
I give props to Britt for that.
Yeah, and actually another interesting thing. Some people have pointed out, this one is almost like a sequel to Thomas, Terrence, and the Snow. And that in that episode, Thomas was really judgmental about Terrence, thinking he can never do anything really useful and such. But in here, even though he's a little bit even though he's a little bit judgmental about Trevor, he's willing to give him a chance and such. He's willing to let him prove his worth and everything. And I think that's actually a nice character development right there. Compared to the last episode that Thomas met someone that wasn't an engine.
Yeah. Thomas learned that Terrence could actually be really useful. So from then on, he learned to give others a chance to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And I can respect that.
I can. Same here. I can respect that too. Again, that's good character growth right there. Another thing too, that's also interesting about this season that I actually forgot to mention. This season, much like season 1, it does have story arcs and such. But it also, it's also the first story where I noticed that so we did the first 4 episodes where it's all about Edward, and now we're doing an episode where it's just Thomas and Trevor. Now the next 4 episodes are going to focus on Percy, and then after that we're going to focus on Thomas and Percy again. And then in the next episode, and then the next 4 episodes are going to be Duck and Diesel. This season has a nice little balance, unlike having a story arc episodes, and then doing episodes where it's where it's kind of random and such. It's actually a neat little detail they did for this season.
I would say the next 3 episodes for Duck and Diesel because they only had 3 episode arc.
Yeah, you're right, because we don't get the domeless engines until season 3, which to be honest, I can understand why they wanted to wait till season 3 for that episode, because to be honest, outside of City of Tyrol, it didn't really add it too much, at least in terms of for this season, that they had to worry about adapting it.
I agree. Anybody want to move on to the next episode, or anyone has any?
I'm personally waiting till Duck takes charge.
All right, then I'll go ahead and talk about Percy and the Single then.
All right.
Alrighty, so Percy and the single. Fun fact: this is well, technically not the first, but this is one of the episodes where, like, in Shiny Time Station and such, they mentioned this episode, but we don't actually get to see this episode until 1991, because again, good old continuity and such. But Card also mentioned too. We do get to see Thomas's special coaches that was used for the missing coach, but again, we never got the missing coach in the end. So
a lot of people thought that the missing coach was one of the express coaches, but it wasn't until 2020 when it was revealed that it was actually like Annie and Clarabelle look-alike.
Yeah, which again is something that's pretty interesting. All right, so Percy and there's another thing I also noticed about season 2. But I noticed, like, and again, I'm not gonna bash Christopher, or actually, I should say the Reverend Audrey, because this is his story. But I'm not gonna bash him or anything like that, because sometimes I do this too, with when I do some writing and everything. But basically, this one is almost like a repeat of, like, Thomas gets tricked, and that, like, but instead of, like, Thomas, we have Percy, and instead of just Gordon, it's both Gordon and James that pays Percy out for teasing him. Although they don't drag Percy all the way across the island, they just basically fuck up his brain by saying that backing singles exist, which I actually thought that was kind of a really funny a really funny trick that they played on both that they played on Percy and such. So it was actually pretty cute.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this, but have you seen the shot where Gordon and James were saying, James and I are spoken about signals, and James's face is...
with James's face almost kind of looked like it's about to come off.
Who? I want to know who the hell approved that scene. They should have reshot it because it's noticeable. I can see the eye mechanism.
You know what? To be honest, I have never noticed that until someone started pointing it out. And now every time that I watch this episode, I cannot unlook that face ever again.
Me neither. I have to look at that face because I just find it interesting. Oh, hey, look, the eye mechanism is visible.
In this case, instead of a 1v1, it's a 2v1.
Yes, yes, it is. And like I said, I do. To be fair, I do understand Percy's gullibleness because, to be fair, I also thought that backing singles were real as well. But from what I understand, technically there are somewhat of a thing as a backing single, but it's a lot more complicated and than what it sounds like and such. But basically, from what I understand, I think there are some places where backing singles are real, but it's a lot more different. Or at least, complicated and everything. But like I said, I could be wrong, so, yeah. Overall, this was a fun little episode, a fun cute one. I like the jokes in the end and everything. I do love, again, that we do get to see Percy being his usual, cheeky self and everything. Also, I do like in both, how both Ringo and George narrated this episode. Basically, especially my favorite scene where, when James found out that he got played by Percy. Sometimes I have trouble if I like Ringo Starr's version, where it's like, oh, where's that little green shit? Or if I, basically if I like George Carlin's version, where it's just, like, oh, where's that shit? I'm gonna beat him up.
I really do. I love that scene though. In that.
Where is that little green piece of crap?
I love the scene.
Where is that? Where is that little green caterpillar with red stripes?
I love that. I love the scene where James is doing nothing in the city. It's like, yep, fuck off, do my job.
I'm feeling like a villain.
I'm doing nothing. Just in here, getting a tan.
Fuck up. You're doing my job, so I'm staying here because Sir Thomas told me to stay here, so fuck you.
and then the inspector's just like, James, he's been away for a week. How the hell could he give you a message?
Sir Thomas told me. He sent a message this morning. I just like how he says it yeah, fuck off. I like how he
told Percy to tell me this morning.
I just like how James says it fuck off. Fuck off. He sent the message. So fuck off.
Bro, you need to get the hell off my spot.
Okay. Get the hell off of my shed. I'm trying to get myself a tan here.
Anyway, I like.
Trying to relax here.
Jokes aside, I like this up. I like this episode. It's just Percy. It's just typical Percy being. It's just Percy. It's just typical Percy being cheeky and I just like the trick James and Gordon played on him. It's a really clever trick that really puts some reality into him, and I just like how he confused a backing signal. And the ending I mean was pretty cute as well. It was pretty funny. So nothing else to say. It's a good episode. 10 out of 10. No, wait. 9 out of 10 backing signals.
Honestly, eight backing signals out of 10.
You know what? I'll probably get like a. You know what? I think I'll also get like an 8 backing singles out of 10. Alrighty, so up next, go ahead, Carter. Is Duck takes charge, and you can also talk about Duck as a character himself too. Whenever you're ready.
So this is the episode that introduced Duck, and personally, I really like it. It shows off a new character and basically shows off his personality perfectly.
It does.
The three engines thing continues, basically. And now to talk about the character,
Alright.
Duck himself. Honestly, I really like his design. Obviously, the Great Western thing is a bit overdue, but I honestly don't care. He's a really good character. And again, I really like the episode as a whole, so I would probably give it a 9 out of 10 for a great episode.
A funny story about Duck. I have a funny story about Duck, the character. When season 17 was announced that they were gonna, air season 17, when they reintroduced Duck, I was like, let me see. I was in a friend of my grandmother's house, and I was watching YouTube on her phone, and there was this video saying like, and now we're gonna show Duck CGI promo picture, and I was like, I thought it was gonna be a fan made picture or something like that, but they confirmed it in the description. It was official, and then when I saw that picture, I freaked out. I was like, "Oh my God, they were bringing him back! They were bringing him back!"
No way, Duck is back!
I freaked out, and when I saw his episode, The Thomas Way, which is the first episode he came back on, I freaked out. I loved it. I was so shocked when they brought him back.
Yeah,
me too. And
Black Boy is back in business.
Basically, I kind of know this is like way far off the line, but what do you guys think about that that joke in one episode where like where basically like Duck slept with like all the answers to Titman's chest, and then like Emily comes back, it's just like, oh shit.
Oh, that was hilarious. I was like, yeah, fuck off. You don't belong here. You don't belong here. This is the OGs here. That's what I said. This is the OGs here. Fuck you, Emily. Just kidding.
Yeah, like I said, I would give this 9 quacks out of 10.
Alrighty. Alright, actually, you know what, do you, Toy Barney or James, want to add anything to the episode, or Duck itself?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
I you know what I love about this episode? My favorite part, I have 2 favorite parts of the episode. The first one, obviously, you all know it. Quack, 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 quack.
No, bellowed all over on Duck.
I think George does it better than Ringo, because Ringo's like.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I do give Ringo credit for like trying to sound like for trying to sound like almost like Donald Duck or something, with the engines.
Yeah.
Well, actually, to be fair, both Ringo and George almost kind of sound like snorting pigs than they do with ducks.
Speaking about that, that's my second favorite part when George says, "Wheeze."
Yeah, like that.
And yeah, this episode is just, if you want to get a laugh, watch this episode. This is a really good introduction to Doc. And if you're in a bad mood and you want to laugh, watch this episode, and and you'll get introduced to a story arc that will continue on for the next episodes. So yeah, I give this episode 9 out of 10 quacks.
Alrighty. One more thing I do want to add about Duck. I just realized too, because this is something that would set him apart for for not only Thomas, Percy, but like all the other steamy tank engines. Is that Duck is one of the few rare tank engines next to Oliver, which we'll see next time. But he's one of the few rare tank engines that actually does his job, and such. Like that actually does his job. He does his job. It doesn't play around with all the other engines. Like he has no time for jokes. He has no time for playing tricks or anything that much and such. Basically he's almost like if Thomas got more and more mature and everything, and basically he just basically cared more about his work and his branch line, almost the same way as how Thomas is passionate about his branch line.
Yeah, that's right.
Alrighty, so we all got 2 episodes. So next
boy.
is Percy proves a point. So anyone want to go first?
Yeah. I'll take the freaking spot for this one.
All right, go right ahead.
All right. So this episode, I'm gonna describe this episode with one word. Fantastic. Fantastic. I love this episode. This episode introduces one of my all-time favorite Thomas characters, Harold the Helicopter. Even though his blades don't work because apparently he needs a transparent disc to fly. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I love the victory song. I really love that victory song. It gets me pretty pissed off that later recordings they just say as a poem instead of a song, and that really pisses me off. But I love the race between Percy and Harold, and I love that they make Harold an asshole in this episode, which is something you don't see in the later episodes. But yeah, Harold is an asshole in this episode. But then it's like, oh shit, yeah, I guess railways are better. I guess railways are useful as the air. But yeah, this episode's pretty good. I give it let me see. I give it a 10 out of 10 helicopter soup, if that makes sense.
All right. All right. Well, do you want to talk about Harold real quick, since this is his introduction?
Yes. Sure, I would eventually love to talk about Harold.
Alrighty.
Okay. My favorite part of Harold the Helicopter has to be, I think he's originally a really, very, really good, nice, beloved character. I really do eventually love George Collins's accent for Harold, though.
Oh yes, George Carlin does a good job doing the accent for Harold. Yeah, Harold has always been one of my favorite characters. I just like, for some reason, I don't know if it's nostalgia. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's how he looks like or anything like that. But Harold's always been one of my favorite characters, and I love his CGI look more than his model. No offense.
I mean, to be fair, to be fair, he's one of the few models where it's it's not really too hard to to basically animate him into CGI and such, and for what it's worth, he does look good in CGI. I will admit.
He does. I love how he looks like in the CGI. Plus, they give in the CGI he wasn't that much of a focus because he was part of the search and rescue center and everything. But when they write episodes with him, they work very well.
They do. They do work very well. I mean, like I said, when we get to season 3, there is one episode with Harold that it's good. We're gonna see if I change my mind on that episode or if I still feel the same way. But there are other episodes basically like a bad day for Harold or Harold and the Flying Horse where both episodes were really good and showing what Harold can do and such.
Yeah, indeed. Well, anyway, I already said it. I give this episode 10 out of 10 helicopters.
Alrighty, Carter, James, is there anything you want to add about the episode or anything you want to add about Harold himself?
Not really.
Okay, for my favorite part of the episode, I like when how Harold and Percy challenged them into Right, Psychic Adventures of Hermely Guitar, and I really do eventually love George Collins' originally his accidental. It says, "We're gonna get that ding dong dang." Yep.
We're gonna catch that helicopter.
We're gonna catch that helicopter. Oh shit, he's got a gun.
That is true. That's a
fun
good
fact: in the original story, the one that said, "Well, I'd be a ding dong dang," was actually the guard in the brake van, but in the episode, it's Percy's driver that says it.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I actually really like the victory song.
I do. I like the victory song, and you know what? I'm going to talk a little bit about Michael Jr. right here because I will say the Herald theme song is one of the is still a very, very good theme for a character to this day. I still love his theme very much.
Me too.
It really shoots him perfectly to a T.
When I was a kid, I used to get excited every time when I heard those opening notes to his theme. I would get very excited because I knew he was coming. Yeah, little kid.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, his theme is almost the same as almost like Gordon or James or Thomas or just basically any other engine. Anytime you hear, all you have to do is just hear a certain theme, you could automatically know which engine belongs with that theme in the classic series.
And Mike, when I read an interview with Michael O'Donnell, he said that it was Junior's idea to do a specific theme for each character. So that was basically Junior's idea from the very beginning.
Yeah, and you know what they made the right call for it because, like I said, it made these characters feel more three-dimensional and everything. It made them feel more connected with kids.
I might as well say this fun fact. I was gonna say it until we get to season 3, but this is something that a lot of Tom's fans don't know. Is that the music videos? Everyone knows the music videos, obviously.
Yes.
Oh yeah, talking about the helicopter.
One thing that I didn't know, and this was until recently, is that they made the episodes first. Their priority was getting the series done first, and then once they have the series complete, they will go back and do some music videos because the top priority was getting the series done first, and then they could go back into the studios and then make a music video.
Makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway.
So wait. I'm going to make a joke here. I give this a 2 out of 10 for a victory sign, which means I actually give this 10 out of 10 helicopters.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice one.
Nice. That's a nice deal.
See what I did there?
I did see what you did there. I did see. Alrighty.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yep. All right. So the Runaway. Do any of you do any of you two want to talk about the Runaway, or do you guys want me to talk about it?
I'll go first.
Oh, okay.
I'll go first.
All right. I'll talk about the Runaway because Summer brought up something interesting about the Runaway that made me rethink about this episode just a little bit. So basically, for those that don't know, there's a new Thomas YouTube channel out there that reads the Railway series. Basically, they read the Railway series and they give their thoughts on each of the stories and such. And one of the stories they were talking a little bit about the Runaway and everything, and how basically they were talking about the Runaway and there is one difference you could tell between about Christopher Audrey's stories and the Reverend Audrey stories, and I don't know if you guys want to agree with them or not. But in terms of the Reverend Audrey stories, whenever the engines have any mechanical problems or any type of any other type of problems, they always have to do something with with their characters or their attitude and such. But in the Christopher Audrey stories and such, the problems just seem more natural, they seem more it doesn't really have much to do with the engine's attitude. It's just more has to do with there's something wrong with their systems and such.
Yeah, you come to think of it, yes, I've actually noticed that.
Yeah, and actually, this story was a good example because someone brought up in in the narration that Thomas was going to be jealous of Duck, but he soon forgot to be jealous and such. Someone brought up a good point and brought up a good point and what if in the original story and such that that Thomas was actually jealous of Duck, and the reason why the handbrake failed was because he wanted to get out of the works early so he can go back and do his branch line early, and that's the reason why he ran away, was because was also more because he was impatient, not just because Thomas's fireman forgot to screw the brake on and such.
Yeah, that could actually work as a story climax.
Yeah, that actually would. Now that's not to say this episode is terrible or anything, because to be fair, I mean to be fair, I still like the episode for what it is. I do actually like the Runaway, and I actually like that we get to hear Harold's full theme in this episode as well too. Again, it really does seem heroic and everything. It does seem like you're with Harold and you want to save Thomas before something terrible happens. I do like and I do like Thomas's tired face at the end, where basically the inspector is just yeah, Thomas, let's make sure we don't do this again, and Thomas is just agree.
One thing that I like is how they managed to get the inspector figurine out of the way as fast as they could when Thomas was
yeah. You know what? That was actually superb filming and editing right there. They did a really great job with that scene as well too.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, how did they manage to do that?
Yeah,
I was
magic, logic,
editing, filming, all the stuff, all the stuff you're going to learn, Toy Bonnie, once you get into college.
Honestly, I don't think there's anything that I can say that hasn't already been said. I give this a 7 out of 10 for a good episode.
Yeah. You know what? Even though I do agree with them that this episode could have had a bit of a better story, it's still not bad. To be fair, I would also give it a 7 out of 10 as well. You know what? I'll give it a 7 out of 10 handbrakes.
I would give it an 8 out of 10 brake pipes.
I give that a 100 all stars for like a good, amazing episode.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. What's up? Someone really loves this episode.
There is one episode to James. There is one episode where we're gonna borrow your rating, because you'll see what episode I mean. We'll get to it.
Actually, yes. All right. So before I let Carter and James talk, one of them talk about Percy Takes the Plunge. Yes, you are right. Actually, Percy Takes the Plunge, I did not hear George Carlin's narration on that episode, not until I got the Percy Takes the Plunge DVD. Not the take along, but basically the remastered Daisy VHS and such. So basically, Ringo Starr's narration was the only narration I ever heard on Percy Takes a Plunge for a long while.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad actually. But that was actually no, my bad. I heard the George Carlin narration first because I bought the Percy Takes the Plunge DVD, and I need to bring this up because did you ever have that occasion where you saw the cover and you thought, oh, this is a new DVD, but once you put it on the player, it was actually an old VHS?
Well, I mean, to be fair, technically it is new for us, because, it's probably new for someone that, that didn't have the original DVD to begin with, so at the very least, I'm kind of glad they remastered it instead of just, forgetting about it completely, like they did with, Tenders and Turntables, Better Late Than Never, and basically Thomas Breaks the Rules and such.
Breaks the Rules, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the only. Oh, Thomas Beats the Queen was another one that one never got a DVD release. Never.
Yeah. Only the first two. Only the first two Thomas VHS ever got DVDs. The last three never got any DVD releases at all.
Timmy.
Yeah, such as Thomas Meets the Queen. Though they're supposed to make a DVD release of it, but there is no plans, unfortunately, though. But it originally, though, it even existed.
Hey, Timmy.
Yes.
You know what I just realized?
What?
What?
I will only have to do 2 people for the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Because like I said, it's 26. So basically, like like I said, only two people will review 6 episodes, and 2 people will review about 7 episodes.
There is one episode I'm gonna leave for last because there's one episode I'm gonna spend like an hour and a half talking. Just kidding. I'm only gonna spend a few minutes, but just.
I know. All right. So just to recap, I think Toy Barney, you went about 3 times, right?
Yes. So now.
Okay. So it's 3 for Toy Barney, 3 for me. So that means, all right. So Carter, James, whoever wants to talk about this episode, go right ahead.
I would like to.
All right, Carter, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
So I think Percy Takes the Plunge is a pretty good episode. Because, well, as usual, it shows Percy being his cheeky self. Henry's kind of like the father figure in this episode. Even though he hasn't had any experience with water, really.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the only experience he had with water is like the rain and such.
Oh yeah, but
not like but not like a pond or anything, or a lake or anything.
Yeah, Percy also hadn't been in like actual like water spots or anything until he just went into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry, being the nice engine he is, actually took Percy away on a flatbed.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was nice, but he was also, kind of, being like, a little cheek to Percy at the end too.
Yeah, I honestly think Percy kind of deserved it.
He did. I'm not saying he did it. He did.
Honestly, yeah.
And then Thomas was also really helpful because he was Percy's friend.
Yeah, and plus two, Thomas also, has been through that kind of situation before as well with the danger sign.
Yeah, now that being said, this episode isn't perfect.
I agree.
It was released before Percy's Promise, which was supposed to take place before.
I was about to say that, I hate that they skipped Percy's Promise, and they.
And two, Bill and Ben were introduced here before their actual introduction episode.
Okay, I'm gonna give a pass for Bill and Ben because because in the original story is that in the original story Percy was talking to mainline engines and such, or at least engines from the other railway and everything. I think putting Bill and Ben in there was probably a good call because they are different engines that we have not seen yet anyway. And plus two, we know that they usually come to the harbor anyway to collect their sea trucks and to collect their China clay trucks and such. So being in a harbor with Percy does make sense. So so at least we'll give him a pass with that one.
I think that he could have been talking with Toby and Duck.
I could see that too.
There were plans to have Bill and Ben and Donald and Douglas, as the engine to talk to Percy, but Donald and Douglas were cut from the episode, and they got replaced with Bill and Ben.
That would just make no sense at all.
Well, for Donald Douglas, yeah, it would absolutely make no sense at all. That I do agree.
Yeah, I'm glad they cut them.
Now again, with that being said, I do not hate this episode. I just feel like it could be made a bit better.
Yeah, I do agree. To be fair, I am at least glad that they at least did Percy's Promise in the next season instead of doing what they did with Pink Pots and Queens and doing it 2 seasons too late and such.
Yeah. I give this episode 8 out of 10 lakes.
Okay. Let me see. Let me see. I agree with Carter with everything Carter said, and I hate that they skipped Percy's Promise. Which, fun fact, Percy's Promise was gonna be in this season. There were plans to make it for season 2, but they dropped it.
Which you know what? If they were to do that, I think what they could have done, I think they could have replaced Thomas, Percy, I still say they could have replaced Thomas, Percy, and Nicole with Paint Pots of Queens, and maybe either switch Percy's Promise and this episode around, like basically have Percy's Promise be the second season episode, and then have Percy Takes the Plunge be a third season episode, or basically replace an episode with Gordon Goes Foreign. Because, like I said, from what I understand, that was another episode that was going to be planned to be a season 2 episode as well.
Yeah, it was going to be produced, but the budget was way too high, so they canceled it. So, Percy Takes the Plunge, I don't hate this episode. I agree with Carter. I don't hate this episode. I think it's a good episode. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take away. I'm gonna have to take away a few points because yeah, it doesn't. It literally makes no sense. Like what ring is he talking about? If you're just watching season 2, what ring is he talking about? I don't know because we haven't seen Percy's Promise yet. So because of that, I'm gonna give this episode 7 out of 10 danger signs.
I'm gonna give it probably a 7 out of 10 angry fat controllers.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. Is it me or season 6 is the season where Sir Tom is angry in almost every single episode?
You know what? When we get to season 6, I'm gonna watch all the episodes. And I'm gonna make a counter about how many times he was actually mad in that whole season.
He was mad throughout the entire season. There were very few episodes where he wasn't angry. But Sec, you want to talk about Percy Takes the Plunge?
I basically don't have too much to say on it. I basically agree with most of the stuff you guys have said as well. I don't hate the episode either. I do agree that it is a little weird that this episode does take place before Percy's Promise. So again, I think what they should have done, they probably should have either, switched them around or have both Percy's Promise and Percy Takes the Plunge be a season 3 episode. But at the same time, what they did for this episode, was pretty good. It was pretty, spot on with the adaptation, minus, Bill and Ben and everything. But yeah, like I said, I also still like this episode too.
All right,
James. Well, it's your turn to talk about Pop Goes the Diesel.
All right.
And it's your turn to talk about Diesel in general as well.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm ready. Okay,
right,
so for my opinion, for Pop Goes the Diesel, I like how eventually, Doug was originally always the main character in this episode because he was originally just brand new into the island of Sodor.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, and when eventually the 3 engines do not eventually like Duck though, unfortunately, and hold up, I get this right. There are 2 ways. And when eventually Duck eventually always said there were always 2 doing things, and Gordon and Henry said, "Don't we know it?" Yep. And once Diesel eventually bring along as well too. This is the first time that we do have eventually have him in the show because they're eventually based off from the real life British engine event as well. I really do eventually love George Collins's accent for Diesel. I can hardly tell. I noticed they though.
It is a pretty good sounding voice. You know what? Let's pretend Michelangelo's didn't exist yet. And just say which Diesel voice do we like better? Do we like a Star's impression or do we like Carlin's impression?
I like George Collins' impression the best. I can tell, and I prefer Ringo Starr's is all right.
I would say George Carlin would be my second favorite because number 1 obviously is Michelangelo's impression.
Yeah, true. I mean, to be fair, Angelos might not be my favorite one of his voice for Diesel, but I still like to laugh at it as well sometimes because because again, I still say Angelos makeup sounds more like a nerd than than a threatening Diesel.
Alright.
Sorry, who's got the dollar, I wonder? Two little goody tails for you, I suppose.
Now, which one of you is gonna help me with my algebra homework?
Got him.
Gotcha.
Got him.
Yeah.
I got ya.
But in terms of which one I like the most, it's a little hard to say because sometimes I go back and forth between Ringo's narration as well as Carlin's voice for Diesel. They both do a really good job of giving him some kind of slimy oily voice. The type of character that you probably want to keep a good eye on because he's probably not as good as he says he is.
Yeah. Can I go?
Sure, go ahead, James. What else were you gonna say?
No.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Would you like to talk about Diesel in general?
Yeah. Would you like to talk about Diesel, James?
Yeah, sure. I love to talk about Diesel. He has to be one of my favorite all-time characters of all time.
Same actually. He's actually one of my favorite characters. And actually, this is also the very first villain we've got in the show too.
Yeah. And the first time that we eventually also got some Diesels for series 2 though, because not just originally steam engines though. Unfortunately, just like they done on series 1. So yeah. About Devious Diesel, I really do eventually love his model. I can really can tell he was originally released from some shunting real British railways on Diesel.
British Rail Class 8. That's what his basis is.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, unfortunately, yep. Which is, he looked exactly a lot like Diesel, I can tell, which is one of the model makers done an amazing job though, which is they do have eventually a plan to make Diesel real listed to make it as a real shunting 8 British Railways Diesel engine. And also it looked exactly a lot like a perfect match. So.
Yeah, it does. You know what? Yeah, that's actually pretty true. A Diesel, Airy, Burgess, pretty much any Diesel that shares the same class. Basically, you couldn't tell the two apart. If you were to look both at the TV series and their real life counterparts.
Yep, they do.
Right. Is there anything you two want to add about the episode or Diesel himself?
Sorry guys. Did you say something?
I was gonna say, did any of you want to talk about the episode itself or Diesel itself?
Not really.
And
Not really.
one more thing.
Because I will admit this was one of the episodes I had a hard time reviewing when I was writing the script for my season 2 video.
Yeah. Because like I said, this is one of the more. This is definitely one of the most memorable episodes in the season. Especially for Thomas fans. Out there, the Duck and Diesel trilogies are memorable for the reason alone, because you got a good introduction between Duck and Diesel. In the end, you could sense Diesel really hating Duck for basically even though it's mostly his fault and such. You do understand why Diesel started hating Duck after this episode. And then the next episode, like I said, it really does, leave you wondering, oh man, what's gonna happen at the end, especially with Duck going away and everything and such. And again, the ending is really good, to end off the Duck and Diesel trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I will say, the song, Pop Goes to Diesel and such, I kind of prefer Ringo a little bit more in terms of his singing voice for the trucks. Not to bash George or anything, because like I said, George does a good job as well too. But there's something about Ringo that I kind of enjoy his singing voice a little bit more in in that version than I do with George Carlin.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So up next is Dirty Work.
I give this episode 8 Diesels out of 10.
I give this episode 8 out of 10 diesels. Same thing.
I gave
I
that
I give I give
episode,
I give this episode 8 out of 10 weasels.
Weasel.
Weasel.
Anyway, next episode, Dirty Work.
Yep, dirty word.
I don't
Alright,
like I'm gonna
Also known as Diesel's Devious Deed or Diesel's Devilish Deed on Tom's Halloween Adventures.
I'm gonna say right now, I don't like the UK title, cause Dirty Work. What Dirty Work?
Well, I mean, like
Okay.
dirty work is just more like basically like he's basically doing something bad and such to get someone innocent into trouble.
Plus, there's another episode with that title in season 11.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think the Diesel's Devious Deed is a better title. Anyway, enough of that. Who wants to go with this episode?
Actually, I'll go ahead and talk about this episode real quick.
All right.
All right, so this, like I said, this episode does serve as because even as a kid, when I had Thomas Comes to Breakfast on VHS and such, I always look forward to these 3 episodes and everything because I basically like how they all were basically connected together, and again, these did feel like are really good proper stories and everything, and this episode does a good job on basically building off on where the last episode left off with basically Diesel being really angry at Doug for basically like I said it's not Doug's fault that Diesel messed up big time and such, but he definitely blames him for basically making the trucks laugh at him and such. And again, sadly, this does that does happen a lot in real life, where a person will blame where a person will just blame other people for their own mistakes that they did upon themselves, but they don't want to own up to their mistakes, and they find just blaming others is a lot more better than that basically that basically own up that you're not really all that perfect and such. And again, this also does happen in real life too, sadly, where where a person will just make up a bunch of lies and everything to the point where that person that might be completely innocent is getting into all sorts of trouble for basically something he didn't do, he or she didn't do in the first place, but basically they can't prove it just yet. So again, again, it's another episode where it holds up, so well, especially no matter what generation you're in and such, and pretty much basically anyone can relate to Doug and pretty much getting the blame for something he didn't do in the first place. And again, it serves as a great to be continued on what's going to happen to Doug. Is he going to come back or is he going to stay in Edward Station? And again, it serves as a nice way to move on to the next story.
I will say that at least this episode does it better because unlike Middle Engine that did it horribly, where Percy got the blame for something he didn't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This episode does it much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. And to be fair, I also like the little exchange that we're being. Okay, I think James said he's going to take a shower. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll be right back, y'all, you folks. Don't worry.
Okay. Alrighty.
I'm gonna be still on the Google.
All right, we'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait for you.
So where did we left off?
James,
we were doing Better Late Than Ever. So James, you want to talk about Better Late Than Ever?
Better late than ever.
All right.
James, you're muted.
James.
Hello?
We're back to the Better Late Than Ever. Your turn. You're going to talk about Better Late Than Ever.
Okay, all right. So, brief history about Better Late Than Ever. Now, and eventually, I'm part of this episode. My favorite part has to be when Thomas was originally late, is because one of the repairmen and workmen were eventually repairing the bridge. I couldn't tell. I know this. And also, originally though, Henry was originally so mad and crossed about it as well too, that Thomas was originally late, but is originally not even eventually his fault though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's originally well, it's originally though it was originally because though Thomas has to like take it slow though, unfortunately, though into the viaduct while the workmen are eventually like sorting out the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And also one more thing about this episode also originally when originally James was originally his turn to be late as well.
Yeah. Actually, I liked how like in Henry was pulling like no train and such, but here James like he was pulling like some trucks and such when he was late.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah. Better late than ever. I can relate a lot to this episode because
Thomas.
Actually, Troy Barney, go ahead. You can say it.
I can relate a lot to this episode because I was in Thomas's place a couple of years ago when I was still in middle school, so I can understand why he wants to keep up with time. And yeah, this episode is so relatable to real life, where you just want to get on time, and because you fear that if you get one second late, you're gonna get in trouble or something like that.
To be fair, sometimes I'm like that too, and like when it comes to some of the stuff I do as well. But over time, I kind of learned that I kind of learn myself to be like I'm just gonna try to take my time, not worry too much about everything around me. If I get some stuff finished, I get some stuff finished. If not, then I can always wait till I can always get it finished next time and such. Cause as long as I'm focused on my work and I'm getting some of it done, then sooner or later I know I'm gonna get it all finished sooner or later anyway. So I try not to worry too much about it.
Yeah, me either. Where was I? Oh yeah. I love the mini, not mini rivalry, but the little breakup Thomas and Bertie have when Bertie teases Thomas and he gets really upset with the
I wouldn't say it's more of a breakup. I would say Thomas is more he's kind of like a little bit annoyed at Bertie that when you think about it, I think this should have been like a wake up call for Thomas when Bertie kind of accuses him of being late, but he's like I'm not doing this on purpose and such. That probably should have been a wake up call for him, when the answers are just like, dude, we're not being late on purpose, we just don't want people to die.
I feel Thomas.
He does some building work though.
I just feel that Thomas in this episode is a little bit, not per se annoying, because I understand that he's
I mean he's not totally unlikable, because again you could understand him a little bit. But at the same time, he's kind of being a little bit unfair to the mainline engines, because like I said, even the narrator said they can't go too fast, otherwise everyone on that viaduct's gonna die.
Exactly. What was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, I don't have that much to say. I think this is a really good episode. I would give it 9 out of 10 viaducts.
That's a lot of viaducts. Alright, basically, yeah, you know what, I still feel the same way about this episode. I still think this is one of my favorite episodes. Now that we did talk about Thomas a little bit, I will admit, I think he is being a little bit unfair to the mainline engines. Excuse me. But at the same time, again, I can relate to him as well, so I'm still going to give it, you know what, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 radiators.
And I give this episode a 10 thumbs up for another good episode.
Right. I honestly think this episode is the most boring out of all the season 2 episodes.
I do understand. I do understand where you're coming from.
It's necessarily bad. it's an okay episode. 5 out of 10 buses.
But there's not that much because like compared to like what we just saw in our last episode, there was like a lot of action, a lot of runaways and such, and this one's kind of more like a calm slice of life and such. And again, it goes back to like how some people don't like Christopher's stories too much because like some of his stories tend to be like more slice of life and not as much action as like Audrey did with his stories.
Wait, did I say 5 out of 10? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's a meta rating. I meant to say 6 out of 10. That's an okay rating.
And as for an overall rating, 5 out of 10 overall rating.
6 out of 10 overall.
Okay.
All right,
6 out of 10 buses.
that's fine.
All right.
All right, so Imani, go ahead and talk about Break Fan, and you can also talk about Donald Douglas too if you want.
Oh yeah.
I fucking love you, Donald Douglas.
Okay, calm down there, man.
All right, so I'm gonna start by saying that the Donald Douglas they're my second favorite Thomas characters overall. If you count them together, I love them. I love episodes when we get them both together. Though I will admit, they have some episodes where they basically copy and paste the other episodes, but I just love them so much that I really don't give a crap because I love them so much. I just love the personalities. I love that they're brothers. Everything about Donald Douglas.
You know what? You do bring up a good point because like this is actually the very first time we actually get to see engine siblings in this show.
Yeah,
and you know what? This time I just realized too. I just realized too. Anytime that we do get siblings in the show, it's always twins. It always has to be twins. They can never be either older or younger than each other. It has to be twins.
Obviously.
Yeah, like Bill and Ben and Donald Douglas.
I guess Arian Bird, if you want, even though technically they're not
Aaron Bird,
siblings.
yeah, I would say Aaron Bird do count as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
And Splatter Dodge too does count. Also.
Yeah, Planet Us do count. Anyway, about Breakman, I know this is gonna be controversial for Tim because you better no, just kidding.
I know. Go ahead. I know what you're gonna say. I mean, like, do you want to say it, or do you want me to bring it up real quick?
No. I'm gonna say the joke. How fucking dare you not like this episode?
Okay, go right ahead.
That's all I wanted to say. Carter, can you put up the slide again? Can you bring up the episode again, Carter? The slide. All right, thank you. So Breakman, I will admit that Tim does bring up a good point that I think they should have adapted the missing coach because this episode on its own feels like an incomplete story. Like how in the freaking hell did they King Sodor? We don't know.
We don't friggin' know unless we have the Railway series.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, to be fair, like, they did do that with other engines before in season 1 where, like, they kind of introduced them, but, like, very briefly. The introduction is not really my main problem with it. My main problem was just more that, like, we don't get enough of, like, Donald and Douglas as a character to kind of, like, care about their situations in a sort of way. Like I said, this is the episode where they are introduced, and like we don't know too much about them to make us feel like we want them to stay. And because of that, I feel like the conflict in this episode is kind of it's kind of at a loss because if you don't give us enough time to tell us what Donald and Douglas are or what they do, then we can't really feel attached to them as characters.
I would say, yeah, Tim does bring up a good point there because, in the Railway series, we do understand why we should care for them because Sir Talbot Haddon is on the verge of sending one of them away to get scrapped. In the book itself, but in the TV, it's a different story because
Yeah, he's just more like, I just need one engine. I don't need two. I'm gonna send one of you guys away.
I would need one. He ends up keeping both.
Yeah.
Quite ironic if you ask me, but yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Breakman, This one I had a tough time thinking about how I'm gonna rate it. But on the one hand, I agree with Tim that he does bring up a good point about the problem that we don't get too much of them, both the twins. So because of that, I'm gonna have to give it a 7 out of 10. Crushed brake vans.
Actually, yeah. Can we talk about like this like brutal scene on how basically Douglas just basically like crushed a brake van to death?
Douglas basically killed him.
Yeah. He just basically straight up did a Mortal Kombat move. He just basically fatality'd him.
I know.
Douglas the Mortal
crash was
Kombat
amazing.
engine.
Mortal Kombat.
Honestly,
a bit like
I'm glad he killed him because that brake van is fucking annoying. I'm already.
Douglas versus spiteful brake van. Fight. Douglas pushes the brake van into a wall.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we got a winner.
Flawless victory.
We got Doug from the island of Sodor. We got
you know what I just realized? The spiteful brake fan must have been a really hated character. If even Scruffy can get himself back together, but Sir Topham Harris just like, well, you're finally dead.
Even Scruffy was.
Yeah, even from I think it was Oliver Stands By. Yeah.
Well, Toe Stands By, but yeah.
Literally, Sir Topham had just said, "Nope, no second chance for you, buddy. You're going straight to the scrapyard."
I'm banishing you to the Shadow Realm.
No.
Much better.
Much better.
Much
Really?
better.
Have you seen the one where Sir Handel, uses a reverse card,
Yeah.
Yeah. How basically they basically turn to like a Yu-Gi-Oh type Uno match between each other.
Anyway, so I give it a 7 out of 10 crushed brake vans.
I give this episode 9 out of 10. Spiteful brake fans.
And I prefer this episode 10 All Stars for an amazing episode.
Wow.
I like
All right, I still stand by, and that again, I don't really hate this episode, but I really think not having the mission coaches really did kill this episode about about trying to make us care about Donald and Douglas, because like I said, they're not bad characters, as characters of themselves, they're really fine characters and everything, their Scottish accents, as well as again their amazing theme song that they have, the theme song that they do have, there's a lot about them you could do with the characters, but I feel like their introduction was really poorly thought out, so to be fair, I'm still gonna give my rating as like a 5 out of 10 tenders.
Let me see. I'm thinking of something to say about it before we move on. Let me see if I remember. Yeah. Well, yeah. Forget it. I forgot what I was gonna say. Let's move on to the deputation.
All right. Well, we all got 4 episodes. So who wants to talk about the deputation?
Now I remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that. If you thought that that the story was poorly executed on Brake Van, wait till we get the tender engines. Oh boy.
Yeah. all right. So who wants to talk about deputation?
James, you can go ahead if you want.
Yeah. You want to talk about deputation, James?
Sure, man.
All right.
Toss comes breakfast is mine.
All right. Go right ahead. All right, so James will do deputation. Carter will do Thomas Comes to Breakfast. Do you want me to do Daisy, Toy Bonnie, or do you want to do Daisy?
I'll do Percy's Predicament. You do Daisy.
Okay. All right. Well, make sure I do Daisy then.
Okay. So, The Deputation, Series 2, Episode 17, narrated by George Collin and Ringo Starr for the UK and US. Now, my favorite part of the episode, though, I like how they eventually put snow cover on Henry, though, and I like how eventually, on Don, when Douglas just recently noticed and spotted him that he was originally stranded on the snow. Very similar to Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree.
Basically, yeah, almost kind of similar. Except in this one, they have they have the brake coach, in the middle of them, and Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree, they have no coach. They do a solo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I
The beginning has a deleted scene from Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree where you can so tell that it's from Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree because the twins are going to find Thomas.
From the director's cut, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything else you want to say, James?
Okay, one more thing. Hold on. Okay. Hold on, give me 1 second.
What?
Yep. Okay. So, in part of this episode, though, when eventually all the engines think that's the top and half, though, thinks he was about to get rid of the two of the twin engines, and all the engines eventually said it is originally a various chain, though I can tell. I'm not afraid that so top and half will might eventually send them away to another railway.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell.
Yeah.
I also like how all the big engines just basically put Percy in the middle of of him being the one telling Top Hat about what's going on. It's just like, why can't all of you do it?
Yeah, Percy is just in the middle of all this madness.
Yeah. Poor Percy.
Yeah. Oh no, poor
I
Percy.
feel bad for him.
And I also I like when the scene where just the Top Hat jumped out of nowhere and said, "What deputations? Oh, yes sir, please sir." Yeah, that's one of my favorite part of the episode.
My favorite part has to be the ending where they go crazy when Sir Top Hat says that they can stay.
Yeah. Basically, how do you guys feel about? Because again, I know in the Railway series, I Donald and Douglas get their colors changed from black to blue and such. Do you guys like that they keep them black in the TV series, or do you think they probably should have made them blue?
I honestly think they should have made them blue.
And they keep them blue for the Railway series.
I will keep them black because I feel if they would have changed it blue, it would have been a little bit confusing.
I can kind of see it.
That would make a lot of sense.
So yeah, I'd rather keep them in their black livery because I love that livery so much. I fucking love you.
I want the blue livery.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm fine with either or, but at the same time, I kind of understand, why they wanted to keep them black and such, because, they kind of figured we already have enough blue engines around here.
Yeah, that's right. So James, what do you give this episode? What rating do you give this episode? James?
James, are you
It
hit?
was really good.
I think he wanted to do something, so I'll say the rating. So I'll say my rating.
All right, go
I
ahead.
give this episode 9 out of 10 snowplows.
Alrighty.
I gave this episode a 10 out of somebody is stuck in the snow for the amazing, great episode.
Alrighty.
I give this episode a 9 out of 10 twins.
Alright, you better take care of all those twins then. I sure as hell ain't gonna take care of all of them.
Yes, we're gonna have one pair of triplets.
So what's your rating?
Alright, my rating, I probably give it. To be honest, even though this is a fine episode, I can see some people getting a little bored with this, because again, it's another one where stuff does happen, but not as much. But at the same time, I think this is this does tie in nicely to Donald and Douglas. And actually, fun fact, I did not actually see this episode for a long while as a kid. Because I had a VHS that had Donald and Douglas in it, but it didn't have the deputation in it. So basically, I never got to see this episode yet. But basically, my rating for this episode, I give it. To be fair, I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 snowstorms. Alright, Carter, here you go. Thomas Comes to Breakfast. Another really classic episode.
So, what do I think of this episode now? does it still stick true to me, or has its ratings lowered from the last time I watched it? I think you should know. It's the former. Because this, again, is a classic. And this was the start of the infamous meme of "look what you've done to my breakfast."
Oh yeah.
Again. I like. You know what? Ever since that one person did a redub of this, basically of this house. You know what? And now that I'm thinking about it, I just kind of I kind of agree with everyone. It's just like, lady, I think you should be more concerned about your kids and your husband than your damn breakfast. You could probably just go to IHOP and get a breakfast.
You miserable engine! Just
Look
what
you
you've done to
our
breakfast.
Now I shall have to cook some more. And she banged the door.
More plaster fell.
This time it fell on Thomas. Yeah.
And Thomas was about to sneeze then at that time in this episode to tell then one of their wives though at that time to do not think about it.
Yeah, like how can you go wrong with this episode?
I mean, it is still a classic, but I do see some people like kind of feel like Thomas getting the blame was kind of a little bit unfair because as the narrator said, it was really more the cleaner's fault that this happened.
Yeah.
Thomas's cheeky self. Percy and Toby try to stop Thomas from what he wants to do. Donald and Douglas appear. The Fat Controller actually gives Thomas a proper punishment.
He
and
does.
all in all, the episode is just perfect to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. It's just perfect.
No, I can see that. Like I said, this is a classic for a reason. I mean, this is probably right up there with Thomas Goes Fishing. You ever mention classic Thomas to someone, it's either this episode, Thomas Goes Fishing, or any other classics that they love, and there's no reason why. I mean, as you said right there in the fun fact, even Christopher Audrey loved this story.
Also, how can you go wrong with this build-up?
The reason why this story was written, and yeah, because I think we already know because
how can you go wrong with that build-up?
Along.
Yeah.
Look, there, look, what's coming next. There was the station master house. The station master
was going to go to IHOP. Horrors! Cried Thomas.
Horrors!
Shut his eyes.
Shut his eyes.
Crash.
Just crash.
You know what? I will say, I think I kind of prefer a little bit of Ringo Starr's narration with this episode, and he gets massive points, mostly because I really love how he muffles his voice when Thomas talks behind this bush. He gets massive points for that.
I'm sorry, sir. I was gonna say that the true reason why this story was written is because the Reverend W. Audrey wasn't happy with Thomas's running board, so he wrote this whole story just to make Thomas crash, so he can send it to the works. And
so basically, Toy Bonnie, what you're saying, the cleaner was actually the Reverend W. Audrey all along.
What?
Dun dun dun.
The true reason is that the Reverend W. Audrey wasn't pretty happy with the way Thomas's running board was designed, so he wrote the whole story just to make Thomas crash, and then so he could send it to the works to make the running board super flat.
Oh.
That's
but
what
it didn't work out in the TV series.
Yeah, it didn't work out in the TV series. But in the books, if we're talking about the books, yes, it did.
You just got a couple of repairs, and that was it in the TV series.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Railway series, it seems like he got a rebuild.
He got a flat running board, and he got rebuilt. Yeah.
I also like too how there's also an extension version of the of this story in the Railway series too.
But he just kept rolling along.
Rolling along.
There was the station master's house. The station master was about to have breakfast. Horrors! Cried Thomas and shut his eyes.
There we go. So
Shut
anyway,
his eyes line makes sense since, he had a wincing face.
Yeah.
and we never see that wincing face after the classic series, unfortunately.
Shut his
I
eyes.
mean, we do.
No, we don't, because he Thomas got a new wincing face after Magic Railroad.
Oh yeah, he did. Yep. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, that's not what I
Yeah.
meant. I meant that we still see it after season 2.
Yeah, I meant on the
Oh yeah,
classic.
and they used the Shut Eye series one face that they also reused with Thomas in the Magic
Yeah,
Railroad.
I meant to say that we don't see it. We don't see it after Magic Railroad. That's what I meant to say.
All right, guys,
Oh,
are you
yeah.
ready for my rating?
Go right
Yes,
ahead. What's your
you are.
rating?
We're ready for
What's
your
your
Carter.
rating?
My rating
Go ahead.
is 10 out of 10 station masters' houses.
Well, I wish you luck in taking care of those houses. Oh,
Well, actually, I was gonna say, why don't we just all move there, rent free?
yeah, why not? So my rating for this episode, I think it should be no. I think everybody knows this episode, so this episode needs no introduction. I give it 10 out of 10 breakfasts. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
And
that
I
makes
gave
sense.
this a horror. Great episode.
A horror grade. You know what, that works. My rating will be 10 out of 10 angry wives that cares more about their breakfast and her family.
Yeah.
They're literally just like, oh, this breakfast matters more than you, buddy. Get out.
The breakfast and I share so
Get
much
out
together.
of my dang house, or I swear to God.
Yeah. Again, thanks to the read up. Now every time I see this scene about the wife complaining about her breakfast, I just have to make fun of her now.
I swear to God, if you don't get out this house, you're going to end up like this breakfast.
Which means I'm gonna eat you.
Like, how can you eat an engine?
Yeah.
Well, actually, to be fair,
Water.
I thought you were talking about the station master.
I was talking about the
The
wife.
Space Master was about to have his nice beloved toast, but until then, Thomas came to the house.
Actually, to be fair, he was about to have a nice beloved toast, but then the house became toast.
Got him.
Okay. Okay. I think we should move on to the next episode before we go off the rails again.
we definitely should move on. Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, I'm handling Daisy. So here we go, Daisy.
Daisy, that's it.
I said, here we go. We're gonna do Daisy. Carter.
I said we're gonna do Daisy.
Okay. Yeah, here we go.
Daisy.
Alrighty. So yeah. Daisy. So again, another fun fact about this episode. Daisy was one of the few characters one of the few classic series characters I have never seen as a child for a very long time. And that's mostly because, she never really had that much of an appearance in the classic series. We only get to see her for 3 episodes, and that's really about it. We never see her again until Call It All Enters, where she was honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, she was really pointless. Literally, there was no point of Daisy being
They
there.
used her for a fucking learning segment.
Yeah,
and
they
then-
did basically use it for a learning segment, and then the hit entertainment was just like, what, Daisy? Yeah,
Until Soldier's Legend of the Lost Treasure.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, that too. But also, about Daisy herself. Daisy is actually one of the few engines that actually has makeup on her. She has the mascara, she has the eyeliner, she has the blush face, the lipstick, it's actually interesting too because in the Railway series story she had no makeup on, she just had a normal face basically like any other engine, and like I said, she was the very first. Well, I guess if you don't want to count, if we're not counting the coaches, she's the very first female engine character in the show.
And the only one for a long while until Emily.
Until Emily, and also until Mavis as well in the next season.
Oh yeah, Mavis. Yeah, Mavis.
Yeah. And basically, in terms of like the episode itself, it's fine. Nothing really special, but at the same time, there are a couple of funny moments, like with Daisy trying to make up some lame excuse on like why she doesn't want to pull the milk truck or the milk tanker and all that. I also do love both George Carlin and Ringo's little woo woo they give to Daisy. I thought that was pretty cute. Daisy herself as a character, now this is just coming from what I remember from the classic series, because I've not seen her CGI form just yet. But basically, in terms of like a classic series character, she's alright. To be honest, she never really left too much of an impression on me. I just got basically her character is just more like a little almost kind of like a little spoiled rich girl and such that only wants to do things she wants to do and just basically like fuck everyone else and such. But at the same time, she does have as we see in the next story and such, she does have a heart of gold and everything, and she does she still wants to prove herself like any other engine and out there and everything. And basically, like, I don't hate her as a character. She's fine and such. She's just not really that memorable to me. But again, this is just coming from someone that, has only seen the classic series. I've not seen, the CGI, or I've not seen too much of her other stories that Christopher Audrey made of her. But basically, as for the episode itself, I probably give it, to be fair, I think I'll probably give it like a 7 out of 10 lipsticks.
Okay, so I want to go this one. I want to go next.
Go ahead.
Daisy to me, when I was a little kid, I found her really annoying because of her spoiled brat personality. But yeah, there was one episode when I was a little kid. I used to like only bullseyes for her because that's where she got her comeuppance, and she realized that being a spoiled brat doesn't always work. But now looking back as an adult now, I really like this episode. It's just typical Daisy, typical introducing to Daisy and then introducing us to what she doesn't like to do, and what she likes to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But honestly, when you get down to it, nothing really happens aside from Daisy being the main focus, obviously. But in terms of a rating, I would give it probably a 7 out of 10 milk tankers.
Alrighty. Is there anything, Carter or James, that you want to add about Daisy or
milk?
Oh,
That could be enough milk for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Actually, well, that's just for anyone that's lactose intolerant. Anyone that drinks that kind of milk is gonna end up dead.
Yep.
Anyways, I give this 8 out of 10 fitters orders.
And I gave this episode for Daisy for a. This is a dreadfully smelly for a great episode.
All right.
Alrighty.
So now we go into Percy's predicament, or Percy's predicament, as I used to say when I was a little kid. I used to say when I was a little kid, I didn't know how to pronounce predicament, so I would say Percy's predicament.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we've all done that before.
Anyway, so Percy's predicament. I have a little bit of a mixed feelings on this episode because of the beginning where they said that Daisy's afraid of cows and bulls, even though we don't know
there's
that.
another one where we don't really get to see it until season 4.
But I will make an exception here because Bullseyes in the original Railway series book felt like a failure story because it could just be its own episode, really.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they skipped it until season 4. But Percy's predicament is just an archetypical story. Percy volunteers to help, and then he has trouble with the trucks. Then he has an accident. Although I do think, to be fair, that I think he got unfairly blamed because it wasn't his fault that the trucks it wasn't his fault that the trucks bumped him and caused him to have well, never mind. It wasn't his fault that he had the accident. It was the truck's fault, and I think he gets unfairly blamed.
Well, I mean, like, also to be fair, that, like, Percy was the one that, like, was ordering them about and such, and, like, this is also another continuity error in terms of the TV series, because they said that, like, Percy has never been to Toby's quarry before, he's been there before, and, like, Percy and Harold and such, so...
Yeah. So, I don't really have much to say other than I don't like the beginning where they mention that Daisy's afraid of bulls and cows, because we don't really see that. But the episode, the crash itself, the crash itself helps this episode be a good episode, and the Runaway. Well, if you want to count, you want to say it's a Runaway, but I don't count it as a Runaway.
I mean, it sort of is a Runaway, but it's a very short one.
Very short one. But that crash alone, oh my god, that crash alone gives.
Yeah. And again, that's another crash where basically a brake van dies. So basically, if you're a brake van in the island of Sodor, you're gonna die sooner or later.
Anyway, so as for the rating of the episode, I give it 8 out of 10. Crush brake vans again.
Rest in peace, all those brake vans. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if one of those brake vans was actually Toads' parents.
Oh my god, no.
Oh, yeah.
So, who wants to talk about what rating you give the episode, Sec?
Next.
I gave that episode a 10 out of stars though, because it's also based off from a real event from the real life accident that a predicament of a engine crashing into the.
Oh yeah, funny story about that. Funny story about the real life event that inspired the episode. There was one guy that sent the Reverend to the Reverend Audrey that story couldn't have happened in real life, and so the Reverend sent them that picture that you see on James's screen, and yeah, it shows you that sometimes you don't expect fictional crashes to happen in real life.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that man just standing like here and said,
Yeah. You know what? I like how he's just standing there. It's just like, yep, there's an engine that crashed, and I didn't do anything to stop it.
And he might say, "Oh well, not my fault." As I walk right.
Sec, what's your rating for the episode?
My rating, I basically gave it like an 8 out of 10. I basically gave it an 8 out of 10 Runaway Percy's.
Oh my god, that's a lot of Percy's.
Oh, okay.
All right, so Carter, what do you rate this episode?
What's your rating for Percy's Predicament?
I'd give this episode 9 out of 10 broken brake vans.
But I literally just said that. But okay.
Well, actually, to be fair, we can say the same thing. We could just break more brake vans. I mean that's what they're called. They're called brake vans. So we break them.
Because who the fuck needs a brake van anyway?
Well, I mean, like Toy Barney, you just sum up what the hit model era and the CGI series is all about. Fuck brake vans. Who needs safety?
All right, so now we get into another class.
Screw brake vans.
Yes.
All right, now we get into.
All right, so we get the Diesel. So who wants to talk about this? And actually, you not only get to talk about one engine, not 2 engines, but 3 new engines.
3 new engines.
Yep.
All right, so who wants to talk about the Diesel?
You do it because you. Oh, never mind. You talk about Daisy. I think we should let Carter. You want to do it, Carter?
I'm gonna go for Edward's exploit.
All right.
You should already know why.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, why not? Tim, go ahead, do the Diesel.
All right, I'll do it then.
I'm gonna have a glass of water while you talk about the Diesel because my throat is a little bit thirsty. So go ahead, talk about the Diesel.
I don't blame you. Go. Alrighty. Alright, so the Diesel. Honestly, this was a really fun and funny episode. You know, like every time I watch it, you know, like I do have a blast and such. Every time I watch it, I do understand why, you know, Andrew Branner or like, you know, any other person, you know, loves Bill and Ben, because like, you know, because I mean, like, you know, who doesn't love these, you know, two little cheeky twins and such, like, you know, that they have a lot of personality, you know, between them, with them arguing a lot or them getting, you know, confused and everything about like, you know, where the Diesel is, or like, you know, who stole the trucks and such. And again, I basically love the music, like, you know, when basically, you know, Bill and Ben, you know, tricks Boko into you know, going back and forth between, you know, his trucks and him. You know, it was definitely pretty funny and everything. In terms of Bill and Ben themselves as characters, again, I can understand, like, you know, why they're fan favorites and such, because, again, you could do a lot with their personalities and such. They have such fun and cheeky personalities that you could do a lot of stories with them. They basically do hold up the show. They're basically like, you know, the Island Sorters practical jokers and such. And again, they do mean well and such. They're probably even more cheeky than Thomas and Percy, and that's saying a lot, considering, you know, Thomas and Percy's personality and such. And I will say this right here, I do love George Carlin's Bill and Ben voice. I think he's the only voice that really suits Bill and Ben perfectly with how these twins interact and such.
And especially if that goes to Alec Baldwin too, which is he done the
in terms of season 5, yes, I will agree. Alec Baldwin in season 5 also does a pretty good Bill and Ben impression as well. Fun fact, this is something Toy Bonnie mentioned to me. But if you notice in the episode, the driver said they're taking away their names and numbers. You only see their names, but they were ready about to put the numbers on Bill and Ben as well. But then decided just to give it the nameplates instead.
They were supposed to have numbers, but I think someone of the crew member accidentally scratched them or something like that, so they took him off. That's what happened.
I see. But yeah, like I said, Bill. Go ahead.
But you can still see the number 2 on Ben at the very beginning, but very faintly.
I'll take a closer look at it then. But yeah, like I said, Bill and Ben, like, you know, again, I can see why they're fan favorites and such. Like, you know, they have a lot going for it. Boko himself, Boko is okay. Again, he's another character that, like, you know, the only thing that's really cool about him is just, like, you know, what type of engine he is, and, like, I will admit, he is definitely very different in both Diesel and Daisy, with Diesel being, like, you know, too slimy and everything, or at least, you know, much of a, like, a manipulator or a liar, and Daisy being, like, you know, a spoiled brat and such. Boko was the very first Diesel that's very kind to, like, you know, steam engines. Like, you know, he doesn't mind working with them that much. And again, it's nice to see, you know, Edward having another friend that's also, you know, old and wise like him and everything. But like I said, there's not too much going on with Boko and such. So again, I can understand why he wasn't featured in the show that much, because, like, again, he's another one where I think he works better if he has, like, you know, another character with him and such, instead of him, you know, being an episode on his own. But at the same time, you know, I kind of wish we would have seen him in, like, you know, the CGI series, because I would have liked to see what they would have done with him and such as a character. They probably could have done a little bit more with him. But as for the episode itself, it's still funny, it's still fun and everything. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 Bill and Ben's.
Oh boy, too much Bill and Ben's. I was gonna say that Boko is a fan favorite character. Boko is a very fan favorite character.
I mean, I can see that too.
Make a poll with let's say, what character you want to come back in the CGI? What character you want to return to CGI series? And I bet Boko will win.
That's not. I mean, I don't doubt it, because again, I heard that, like, both Boko and Hank were about to come back into CGI as well. But from what I understand, again, it might not be fully true. But what I understand is that, like, you know, Mattel didn't want it because they felt like they had too many male characters in the show.
which is bull. Which I get. Well, never mind. I'll refrain from talking about Mattel because I'll get into a rant that I don't want to get into.
Yeah.
Anyway. As for the Diesel funny episode, I love Bill and Ben. They're such great characters, and Boko. Boko's a great character. I love all three new characters in this episode, and I also like how Edward is like a strict teacher to Bill and Ben, if you think about it, or
Yeah.
a strict parent, if you want to call it a parent.
Well, I mean, like to be fair, yeah, he is kind of like a strict parent, or at least strict, older sibling, just to make sure, like they don't get into like too much trouble or anything.
Yeah. So as for my rating for the Diesel, I give it 10 out of 10 diesel oils.
And I gave this episode a 10 of all stars for a stop, you're making me giddy episode.
And Carter?
Carter.
So I give this episode 9 out of 10 Metropolitan Vickers diesels.
Alrighty.
Good.
And guess what? We're all done talking about the season 2 characters as well. So now we can just focus on the episodes as well.
Yep, we can focus. So,
Alright.
Wrong Road.
Do you want to talk about Toy Barney, or do you want to talk about Percy's ghostly trick?
There is one episode I want to talk about, and I think you know which one it is, and I'm going to save it for later. I'll review when we get to it.
All right. Well, do you
So,
want?
I'll still talk about Wrong Road, because why not?
All right, go ahead.
So, Wrong Road is one of those episodes where it's a Gordon-focused episode, and it shows that even Gordon can make a mistake.
Mhm.
And even he has to face reality in some parts. And I like this episode. It shows Gordon being too pompous at some parts, but I also think he learns this lesson as to what it means to be on time and a really useful engine, and that I think. I don't have too much to say. I love the joke that Bill when Ben says, "No, Bill, this lot's useless for scrap. We'll take it to the harbor and dump it in the sea." And when I see that Gordon face, I can't help but fall.
I will admit it is so perfectly timed and such that I could see a lot of people laugh, especially kids laughing at that face. I especially love how both Ringo and George basically follows up with like, "I am Gordon. Stop."
I love that face. It makes me laugh so hard whenever I see it. And I also love how he says, "Boko, my dear engine, save me."
Boko, my
Like-
dear engine, save me.
I just like how he says it at.
I also love how the narrator specifically said that Gordon thought he was the beautiful engine he had ever seen.
Secretly gay marriage.
Maybe secretly, or you know what? Maybe that's why we don't see Bogo ever. Maybe that's why we don't see Bogo ever again. They're not ready for an engine to have a gay relationship yet.
Anyway, so Wrong Road.
Bogo, would you like to pull my express?
So Wrong Road is a great episode. I love this episode quite a lot. So I give Wrong Road. Let's see, what can I? Oh yeah, I give it 10 out of 10. Useless loss for scrap.
All right. Well, as for me, this is another episode that's all right. Again, don't hate it. It's not even bad, to be honest. You know what? The way you talk about the scene, I will admit, it was so perfectly timed and edited. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. Throw Gordon into the sea.
So James, what do you think about this episode?
Okay, what I'm eventually going to be thinking about this episode, I like when how eventually, like, Gordon eventually, like, takes off until then eventually all the people that were eventually, like, so mad and so concerned about Gordon, and now will eventually escalate blast right before Edward leaves
Yeah.
station to take them home. Gordon felt really embarrassed for herself.
Yeah, this is another one where, like, yeah, you really do feel sorry for Gordon, because again, again, it's almost similar to how Thomas, like, left his train behind, because he thought, like, he was ready to go, and now Gordon feels, and now Gordon knows, like, what Thomas went through.
All right, so what's your rating for this episode, James?
James,
What's your rating for James?
are you dead?
James, if you're talking, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. Yeah. So, while he unmutes itself, Carter, what's your rating for Wrong Road?
My rating is 9 out of 10 coaches.
Coaches, all right. What's your rating on
Express
James?
coaches, to be exact.
Express coaches, all right. What's your rating, James? James?
I think he's still muted.
Yes. Yeah,
Ah, there we go.
yeah. And also one more thing about this opinion of this episode, though, when the lady shook his head, unfortunately, and said goodbye to his husband and such, whatever.
I seriously find it stupid that someone will confuse a stupid hat for a stupid lady with a green hat for a flag.
Yeah, I know, right? And then Gordon eventually takes off and dot.
Well, actually, from what I understand, I think in the Railway series, I think his fireman was like new to the job. I think he was like new to the job and such. So I can kind of understand that, at least how he mistake that. But yeah, in terms of the TV series, yeah, that was kind of a stupid move.
Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was stop and motion one right there. I could
So
tell.
no Railway series.
Mm-hmm. Quick move, like that.
So, up next we got an episode that
Carter wants to talk about, so go ahead.
If you dislike this episode, go into a toilet and drown yourself, because you have to love this episode.
Edward's Exploit is the best Season 2 episode.
For
And
you.
no one can convince me otherwise. This is Edward at his freaking best.
Agreed. Fucking agreed.
He does anything, even if it puts him at risk, to get these passengers home. And that is how Edward should be. He should not be a goody two-shoes. He should be a very, very brave engine who puts his life on the line to do anything for his friends.
Indeed.
And Boko and Duck backing him up, that is true friendship right there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is true.
Absolutely.
That is very true. You know, it's very
And when,
interesting.
and when Edward returns to the sheds, you can literally just scream, "Yes! In your face!"
Now you pull my string.
I got it.
Therefore, I give this episode an 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 Edwards.
Okay. Well.
Well,
got-
when you said
Edward.
11 out of 10 Edwards, so sadly one of them's going to have to get scrapped.
Well,
None of them have
none
to be
of them can
scrapped.
get scrapped.
None
can-
of them have
Alright.
to be scrapped. 11 out of 10 is my final
Uh,
rating for this episode.
You know what? Before you go, Troy Barney, I want to bring up something interesting. It is very interesting that Duck would stick up for Edward, because the only interaction, Duck and Edward had with each other was in close shave and such, and I think it's very telling that Duck would stick up for Edward, because Edward was the one that stick up for Duck when the ancients blamed him for something he didn't do and such. So again, you're right, that does show a true friendship right there.
Yeah, I love this episode, by the way. I love this episode a lot, and there was only one thing there's only one minor nitpick I have, is that I don't like that they didn't make Edward's side so broken like in the original story, because in the original story his side was so fucking destroyed.
Yeah, no, right. Actually, I was reading a comment, just being like, and how some people were just like, and how like, this would almost be equivalent of like, someone losing an arm or a leg.
Yeah, and apparently there was a face. There was a face that was made. There was a wincing face made for Edward for this episode, but apparently it was not used. It wasn't until You Can Do It, Toby, that it was used.
But it was also used from Series 5 also, as well.
What? Was it used in season 5?
Yeah, there was. That time.
I'll have to take a look at it. Well, as for this episode, I can't disagree with Carter. This episode is a 10 out of 10 broken side rods.
And I prefer this episode. Suddenly a rod broke. Amazing episode.
Amazing episode. All right.
All right. Well, for me, you know what? You guys each gave good points about this episode. That, you know what? Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Gordon and Henry should stop being dicks to Edward.
Yeah, and stop teasing him.
All right. So.
Alrighty.
All right.
All right. So that means James, you get to talk about Ghost Train.
Right. We're having. I think Carter's having trouble with the
microphone,
with the slides here because there. Yeah, it says.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh wait, hold up. Is it going?
Yeah, there you go. Carter, go for Ghost Train. The hell?
Here we go.
Okay.
There you go. Ghost Train.
Here we go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Percy's ghostly trick, known as the episode 2 Ghost Train. My favorite eventually part of the episode when Thomas and Toby eventually tell a ghost story about a engine which throughout the watermill and the viaduct and shove her back home and never eventually come back ever again. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately though, I like Renee how eventually Percy eventually just said unfortunately that is Driver that had eventually seen a ghost though, but Thomas and Toby do not eventually believe him. Yeah, I can tell. And also really about this episode though, I like how they eventually make the fog and so unrealistic. Not unrealistic though, but realistic to make sense throughout this whole entire episode. If they could eventually use a fog machine to make a mist real life fog, I could tell, to make this episode more popular.
Yeah. I will admit, this is something because again, Carter points out in a fun fact. This is something I only noticed a little bit with Ringo. You could barely hear it in Carlin's narration. But in Ringo Starr's narration, you could definitely hear the sound effect for the ghosts at the end, and
the reverb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I will also say too, the scene where Percy plays the ghostly trick on Thomas. I like the version from both Star and Carlin. I like how Star tries to, make it sound a little bit more eerie and scary and everything, with Percy, being like, let me in, and that. But I also like George Carlin's narration because he definitely makes the scene a lot more. I'd say he makes this scene a little bit more funny than scary at times and such, especially with how over the top he is, especially how high he's making Percy's voice going. It kind of cracks me up as a kid every time I hear that.
It's amazing though. So James, what's your rating for Ghost Train?
I think the episode looked like a great, fantastic, perfect Halloween episode, I can tell. Not too violent though, unfortunately, but it was originally cleaner and also originally safer for a rated G rating for the children as well to watch. Not like too much of a violent story. Hell nah. No. We don't eventually like scissor arm killers in this.
So how
Not like a Friday 13th compression.
So what do you give this episode?
A 12 of all stars for another great episode.
All right.
Alrighty.
So Ghost Train. This was one of my favorite episodes when I was a little kid. I love the atmosphere in this episode. Like how this is gonna be a spooky episode. That right from the very beginning when you see the fog, you know this is gonna be a spooky.
Well, not just the fog, but I think this music score is one of Mike and Junior's best pieces
music
of the show for period.
The Ghost Train theme is amazing. Who can? It's just catchy, scary, and lighthearted.
Yeah, it is.
And funny. Yeah. So I love this episode. I love my favorite part is when Thomas runs away after the doors open, because they said it, even the bravest people can get scared at times.
Actually, this is another something I want to kind of bring up, but Thomas was kind of a dick in this episode, because basically, like Toby came in the shed and he just told Thomas that, like, Percy had an accident, and Thomas just like, who cares? Am I going to be late?
Yeah. I will admit, Thomas is a bit of a dick in this episode, and even at the very beginning when he didn't believe Percy's story. Well, I can understand the beginning because who's gonna believe?
Yeah. I mean, like in the beginning, it makes sense because, like, yeah, he's a cheeky engine, but then in the end, he's just, he kind of doesn't care if Percy dies and such. He kind of wants to, he just wants to be, ready and such.
It's not even morning in the.
I think Thomas really deserved that scare big time.
One thing I don't like is that at the beginning when they're talking is that it's nighttime. It's not even morning.
I mean, I think the fog kind of makes it like it kind of makes you feel like probably it might be somewhere at least like dawn in the evening or something, or maybe like it's getting close to evening or something. I think that's kind of what they were going for in that part.
Got you.
So as for I also love the scene where Percy crashes into the line.
Again, that scene was actually well filmed. And a fun fact: originally, Terrence was going to be the one to pull the card, but he was never in the episode overall.
And of course, I bet that if Percy would have crashed, he still would have had that stupid smile on his face.
Actually, no, because I know, he closed his eyes before he, crashed it into the lime and such.
No, I'm just talking about Terrence.
Terrence. He would. He would have been just like, yep, all according to plan. Percy's dead.
He would have had that stupid smile on his face.
Yeah.
So as for the episode, I give Ghost Train 9 out of 10 Jack Skellingtons.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. But Toy Barney, Jack Skellington didn't exist yet.
Who cares? Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry. All right. If you love Jack Skellington so much, why don't you marry him?
Fuck you. Seriously.
Love you too, Toy Barney.
Wait, did you say the rating for the episode?
For me, no, I didn't get a rating yet. My rating is, you know what? This is still a really good planned out story. So I'm probably gonna give it like a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Thomas is a dick.
So Carter, what do you think about Ghost Train?
I give this episode 10 out of 10 line cards.
Okay.
And all right, so we got 2 episodes left. I'm going to say it right now. Toy Barney wants to talk about the final episode. So basically, whoever wants to talk about Woolly Bear, go right ahead.
Were we supposed to do 2 people for the final episodes?
We did, yeah. We did, yeah. So, actually, okay, yeah. If you want to do 2 people for the final episodes, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
I want to do Woolly Bear with you, Timmy.
Okay, we'll do Woolly Bear together then. All right. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
So, I actually like Woolly Bear, even though it's another Thomas's personality is wrong kind of episode. But it's not that wrong, I would say. I would say it's just kind of like being cheeky a bit too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, like, this is another episode where basically, like, Thomas is just more worried about being late and actually, caring, like, is Percy okay or not?
Percy is I guess this episode just focuses on one of Percy's unlucky days.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, throughout the season, Percy has been like a very unlucky entry. I mean, like, he crashed through lime. He went into a water. He basically he got tricked by Gordon and James. I mean, honestly, the only really good thing that happened to him is that, like, he won a race against a helicopter.
I think he needs a horseshoe, but we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Mm-hmm. Wink, wink.
But I think it stands up to his name because Percy does kind of look like a bear by the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it says I look like a woolly bear literally just tops it all off.
Yeah.
Overall, I give this episode 9 out of 10 hay bales.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hay right there. Gonna feed a horse.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do agree. There's nothing really horrible about this episode and such. Again, it's another fine episode. A nice little follow-up, too, to Ghost Train. Which, fun fact, when I was a kid and such, I always thought that, when I was a kid, I always considered Thomas, Percy, and the Dragon to be the true follow-up to Ghost Train. I actually didn't know that this story and the Ghost Train were actually connected together. But now it does make sense, looking at the Railway series and such. And also fun fact, when I was a kid, my first VHS, Races, Rescues, and Runaways, in the music video, Accidents Would Happen, they would always show this scene with, like, Percy and, like, hay and such. And I always wanted to try to find that episode, and now that I found it and such, like, now that I found it, it's still a pretty good episode, Again, Thomas may be a little bit of a dick here and everything, but I think that's just more like, this is what, Audrey kind of, imagined Thomas to be, because like I said, Thomas would be very, very different as the seasons would go on and such, and we could clearly see that, in the next few seasons and such, especially when we get to the hit model era and such. But I do like, that Thomas and Percy got the last laugh, after, Percy, basically, tricked Thomas into thinking he was a ghost and such, so, that little scene was pretty funny. And I actually do like, the crash, like, with, Percy getting, covered in treacle. And I thought, him, with the hay and everything, looks really nice, on the model and everything. So for my final ratings on this one, I'm gonna give it, you know what, I'll give it like 8 out of 10, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10 bears.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Troy Barney, one of the bears is Winnie the Pooh.
Fuck that fucking bear. Fuck that bear.
I love Winnie the Pooh.
I despise Winnie the Pooh after what he did to Mr. Toad in Walt Disney World.
Mm.
Hey, boo boo! There's a little green caterpillar with red stripes.
I despise Winnie the Pooh after what he did. I despise Pooh after what he did to Mr. Toad and the Country Bear Jamboree in Disneyland.
Alrighty. All right,
So
Troy,
anyway,
Barney, James, or anything you guys want to add, or do you want to move on to?
I was gonna start. I haven't even given my opinion. All right, so this was the only episode of Thomas that took me years to see because I couldn't seem to remember what was the name of the episode. So the first time I saw this episode was in 2012, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not joking. 2012 because I couldn't find the DVD where it was featured on.
No,
And-
I believe you. There were a couple of
Oh,
Thomas.
yeah.
There were actually a couple of classic Thomas episodes. Episodes I didn't see for a long while until I discovered YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was from Thomas Sodor Stories on VHS Sampler. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is one of the episodes that took me a long time to see it, and when I watched it, I liked it. Not great, not bad. Just I liked it. The story is fine. I feel Thomas is a bit of too much of a dick to Percy in this episode. And the only thing that I could say that is good is the creative treacle falling on Percy, and when he gets covered in hay. Other than that, nothing really happens in this episode. So I would say that this is probably the weakest episode of season 2, in my opinion, at least. If you disagree, that's fine. So I would give it 6 out of 10 treacle crates.
Alrighty. And
All right.
well, actually, James, is there anything you want to add, or at least
Yeah,
you
dude.
want to give your rating for Woolly Bear?
Oh yeah. Okay. For my opinion about this episode about Woolly Bear, the episode from series 2, episode 25, narrated by George Collin. I used to have the VHS version, which is back in all the way in 2004, which is a Thomas and Friends VHS sampler called Soda Stories, which is this episode I haven't eventually seen for a really long time. So I gave this episode a 10 of all stars for another amazing episode.
Alrighty.
All right, let's go on to the
All
last
right,
episode.
Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree. Alright, so Toy Barney, you want to go first since it's your very favorite, or do you want James to go first?
This face shows it all.
Guys,
Yep.
guys.
And
I'm gonna
Something?
give the rating right now. This episode, I give this episode 1 billion Christmas trees out of 10.
That's a lot of Christmas trees.
I love this episode. I adore this episode. I just-
Guys,
You were gonna say something, Carter?
you want to know something?
Yeah.
I had to literally just crop the quote onto the thing for the sake of my sanity. For the sake of my sanity, I did this.
The quote where where Donald Douglas find out that it's Thomas. On
Yeah.
The list.
Yeah.
I
I'll admit this is another one where Ringo Starr gets massive points because again I like how he does a muffled voice for Thomas in this one.
I love this episode. I already said it. 1 billion Christmas trees out of 10. I already gave the rating. I love this episode, beginning to end. This episode is in my DNA, and I know it from start to finish. And whenever I think of season 2, this is the episode that comes into my mind. This is my all-time favorite season 2 episode. Always was, always will be. There's not a second I dislike of this episode. I will admit, secretly, I would have liked it better if they made this into like a 10-minute Christmas special, because the original story was way longer than this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love the original story though. I read it and it's pretty good. I was impressed. I think the story is way better than the episode. But this episode is just the sets and the action is just amazing. That I just can't put it into words. I just love this episode so much.
I mean, to be fair, like, much like, Thomas's Christmas party, like, this definitely does feel like, a proper ending with to like season 2, because you get to see all of the season 2 characters. Minus Daisy and such, but yeah, you get to see all of them having fun.
And also, the infamous Super Smash Brothers Ultimate quote: "Everyone is here." Get it? Because everyone is.
I do get it.
Yeah. So yeah, I already said it. I give this episode 1 billion Christmas trees out of 10.
Alrighty.
And I gave this episode for a ho 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 Merry Christmas a great and amazing episode for 10 all stars.
And a great episode to end off season 2. So anyway, Carter, take it away with your final thoughts on what your thoughts on this episode.
Go ahead, Carter. You gave your ratings.
My rating is 10 out of 10 Santa hats. One for each engine, 1 to 10.
Just all the engines 1 through 10. Actually, all the steam engines too. You diesel engines and you roll vehicles, you get nothing. You get no hats. You go naked.
Actually, Boko gets a bonus hat, so you know what? 13 out of 10.
Alrighty. Alright, my rating, again, like, I do agree with Toy Bonnie, like, now it's been a while since I have read the original story and such, but I do think the original story is a little bit more better than, the episode and such, but at the same time, again, like, I do think this is actually a lot better Christmas episode as well than, Thomas's Christmas Party as well. Not to say that, the Christmas Party is a bad episode, but this episode, again, it does feel like, a proper ending to, Season 2. There's a lot of things, this episode does well, so again, for my rating of this, episode, you know what, I think I'll also give it, like, a 9 out of 10, Santa Clauses, or Father Christmas.
Yep.
And with
Alright.
that, we're done with season 2.
Yes. Alright, let's talk about the, music, so, actually, Toy Barney, you can go first, since you're more of a music expert anyway, so go ahead.
All right, so yeah, you're right. So I'm more of a music expert. So the music on this season, okay, so they used the same instruments they did for season 1, which was the Roland Jupiter 6 synthesizer, and honestly, they really improved the soundtrack for this season. They introduced new themes and they basically reused some of the old themes they did for season 1, and they really make them good. Some of my favorite themes for this season have to be Diesel's theme. Harold's theme is my number 1 pick, and I would say the "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" background music is pretty good as well. So Mike and Junior in this season, they were just as good as they were in season 1, but I would say a tiny bit better than they were in season 1. So as for the music, I would give it a 10 out of 10. They did a great job with the soundtrack.
That's great.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, again, there's a lot of soundtrack in this season that, mixed with season 1, like, it's memorable for a reason. Like, we got Diesel's theme, we got, Duck's theme, Donald and Douglas, Daisy, like, all these new engine themes, matches up perfectly with these characters. And it's not just that, but like, the other music's like, like the Runaway theme, like the updated version, or the theme, like, where something, bad is going to happen, or basically even the Viaduct theme. The Viaduct theme is one of my favorite themes of, like, out of the whole show, because, like, it's just very relaxing.
I forgot to mention one.
Go ahead.
And one that I love to death. The infamous watermill theme.
Yeah, I do agree. That one's pretty good too.
I love the Christmas version more because they add sleigh bells to it, and oh my god, it's amazing.
Alrighty, Carter, James, or anything you guys want to say about the music?
Honestly, yes. I love.
Turn off the music because
You might have to lower the music just so we can hear you.
I absolutely love the
okay.
music.
Alright, my
this
bad.
season. I mean, it's just so great. Like, you can't go wrong with the music from this season. You just can't. It's that good.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 10 out of 10 on the music.
Alrighty. And James, is there anything you want to say about the music?
Now, okay, about Michael Donna Jr. Campbell's music for Series 2, they done like they both an amazing job though, just like they done the theme songs from Series 2 though, and they used the same instrumentals that they eventually also just like they done on Series 1 as well too. And for Donald Duck's theme song, that sounded really, really amazing. I can tell. I noticed the drum sounds and everything else, and the guitar of the music sounded pretty amazing though. And they also used one of the bagpipes though until around Series 6 in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in Series 7, though, they also keep the bagpipes them from Series 7 right afterwards.
Yeah. That is true. Robert Hearthstone does use the bagpipes again for the Donald Douglas theme.
Yep.
All right. Well, if that's all for music, then let's go ahead and talk about our narrators.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. Well, who wants to go first in terms about talking about narrators?
I guess I should go first.
All right, ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna start with Ringo Starr because, oh my goodness, he destroys his season 1 self. You can tell that he's having a lot of fun with the voices and he gives the energy that was missing in season 1. Because now he knows that the show's a huge hit, so now he gives the voices more power to them. And honestly, he did an amazing job in some episodes. And I would say in some episodes, I think he's better than George Carlin in some episodes.
I do wholeheartedly agree with you, cause like when I was watching like episodes like Bertie's Chase or like Bertie's Chase, or basically like Thomas, Percy, and Nicole, like hearing Ringo Starr's narration and then hearing George Carlin narration on those episodes. I do understand why some don't like, can say like George Carlin can also be monotone sometimes, because I will admit, yeah, there are some episodes where it kind of sounds like, he's a little bit bored or something, or like he's not having a good time or something with the show. But that's not the diss on George Carlin, because like, both are good narrators in their own right.
Yeah, that's true. So Ringo Starr, if I had to rate Ringo Starr in this season, I would give him, on a scale 1 to 5, I would give it 4.5 out of 5. He absolutely destroyed his season 1 self in this season. He made it up.
Great.
For this season. So yeah, Ringo Starr gets a 4.5 out of 5 for me. And as for George Carlin, as usual, he is a superstar. Like if that makes sense, a superstar narrator. So. George Carlin obviously did a good job, so I will give him the same rating, 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5.
Alrighty. I guess I'll go next. Like I said, with both Ringo and George, with Ringo, like as Story Bonnie said, he did definitely improve his narration skills from the last season. And it's a bit of a shame too that this was his last season as the narrator as well, when he did the show. But for the last season, he definitely went off as a good note and such. Again, you could definitely did see that like he definitely tried harder when it came to the show, when it came to like voicing the engines, or at least giving it a bit more excitement too when something with some kind of action happened along the scene, along the narration and such. So like I said, I do see why a couple people, really do like Ringo Starr and have a soft spot for him. I do like Ringo as well too. He can be a very good narrator when he wants to. And that's the same thing with George Carlin. Again, like I'm a little bit biased because again I grew up with George Carlin the most and such. But I will admit when he does sound bored, or when it does feel like he's not trying that hard, I will admit he probably could have done a little bit better. But at the same time, listening to his narrations and such and everything, he still holds up really well. Again, I do like how he gives different voices for each engine to match up their personality, or to try or even make even make an action scene even more intense and such with his narration and everything. So for both Ringo and George, I give him like 2 thumbs up. They give him they're a pretty good narration in their own rights.
All right. So Carter, James, what do you? Let's start with Carter. What do you think about Ringo in this season? Ringo.
I prefer Ringo Starr from the Beatles member, the drummer. I gave his narration a 99 all stars.
Wow.
That's amazing compression narration.
Okay. So Ringo Starr and George Carlin, did they do good this season? Honestly, yes. Ringo Starr beat George Carlin, but they were both good in their own ways. So, I give each narrator a 10 out of 10.
Alrighty.
Wow.
All
Alrighty.
right. Well. How do we feel about this season overall?
Let's do it.
Was
Let's do it.
was there
Let's do
anything
it.
interesting about
Let's
this
do it.
season that we found out while watching, or do we agree with the fans that it still holds up to this day, or like do we think it's overrated? Who wants to go
Let's do
first,
it.
giving their overall
Let's
thoughts?
do it. Let's do it from top to bottom. We'll start with James, then we'll go with Carter, then Sec, and then we'll end with me.
Okay. All right, James. So, what do you think of season 2 as a whole?
Okay, what about the what other things do you think about season 2? It's originally a great rated G episode, more children's-y preschools television series. It would have been if it's would have been eventually make a lot of sense to imagine that if they could do like series 2 of Tugs. In that time though, they're supposed to be eventually like making eventually like thinking about making like a segment, and they also eventually like a preschoolness kids friendship and learning episodes and such, but that originally got canceled. Yeah, unfortunately after the first season of Tugs, because they got bankrupt.
Yeah.
But though, however, though they still eventually make Thomas. Yeah, though unfortunately, which is originally the same creators, like directed by David Mitton and such. And the producer was supposed to be written by Brett Allcroft Productions, but unfortunately, Brett Allcroft came eventually do eventually Tugs because he has to still work on Thomas and Chinatown Station, and he also has to work on a new show on Magic Adventures of Muffy up and around the end of the other state in that time. So yep. So for series 2 of Thomas and Friends, back to that, I gave this a all of 13 out of All Stars for a great, fantastic season from 1986.
Alrighty. Well, Carter, you're up next. Do you feel this season deserves the praise that it deserves?
Is that even a question at this point?
I mean, technically, it's a question. Yes, it's a question. Now hurry up and answer it, or you don't get a new card.
Yes. 100 times yes. This season does deserve the praise it gets. I mean, you can't really go wrong with this season, can you? Aside from a few exceptions, but that doesn't even ruin the season. Aside from the few exceptions, I give this season a 9 out of 10 for a great season.
Alrighty. Alright, well, as Carter pointed out, yeah, there are some flaws that Season 2 does have. I will admit, there are some episodes that they probably could have structured them a little bit more better, or at least, or at least put them in a different place and such. Like, again, with, like, Thomas, Percy, and Nicole, or Percy Takes a Plunge. But those episodes don't ruin the season for me, overall. Like, I actually do like how this story is structured, or at least how the season is structured, I should say. Because, like I said, in the last season, it was just basically all, like, with the exception of, like, the first episode, Thomas gets tricked and such. All the stories were just basically, like, a continuation of every, previous story that happened last time and such. And in here, like, they have a neat little pattern that actually works with this season, where it's just, like, they'll do a story arc, and then they'll do, like, a random episode, then they'll do another story arc, another random episode. And I actually think that works really well with this season because we get to take a break, meeting the new characters and take a look and see what the old characters are doing and such. Like with Thomas being on his branch line, or what's Percy up to, trying to play tricks and such, or how's Edward doing, with how old he is and everything. They do a lot of stuff in the season and everything that actually works really well. I do like in this season as well too. They do give character growth to some engines like Thomas, Percy, and Edward, and their character growth actually works real well in this season, and it'll continue to work really well in the next season, because I still stand that the next season really does it really does do a lot for these old characters, and even if some of them didn't work out well in the next season, I still give David and Britt props for at least trying to expand the characters and everything. But overall, yeah, like I said, the settings was great. The narration again was spot on. They did pick a couple of good stories for this season, so you know what? I'm also gonna give this season a 9 out of 10, a really good season. Like again, I do see why a lot of people like this season very much, and I do agree. After Troy Barney gives his final thoughts, do you guys think this do you guys think this was better than season 1, or do you think season 1 was a little bit better?
All right, so do I go now?
Yeah, you can go. Go ahead.
All right, so season 2, I'm just mind blown by this season. Like they really corrected themselves and assured that everything would be great for this season. The stories are great. The new characters are amazing. The already established characters are classic as usual, and it's just an amazing season. And I do agree with the fans that this is this is one of the best seasons period. And yeah, so if I had to rate this season, I would give it in terms of a number score, I would give it 10 out of 10. If I had to use my ratings, is it even a question? A good season. That's all I have to say.
Alrighty. Alright, well, I think that will about do it. So, yeah. Alright, so we're all done with season 2 right now. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the stream and everything. We all hope that, you guys had a lot of fun reviewing the season with us, as well as, taking a look at the episodes with us. And again, I want to thank all my friends. I want to thank Toy Bonnie, Carter, and James for coming down over here and reviewing the season with us. So again, thank you all so much for coming and joining me on the stream.
No problem, bud. Anytime.
No problem. And turn off the Thomas theme because Mattel's gonna take down our video if we use it.
Yep, before we get copyright.
No, you're fine. I think like I said, Toy Barney will edit some of these and such, so you don't have to worry. But yeah, like I said, these will get uploaded onto the Review Bros. So if you guys have not seen the Review Bros, make sure you check that out real quick. In terms of when we're gonna do next season, both James and Carter will be starting school pretty soon, so it won't be till a very good long while till we decided that we want to do season 3. But when we're ready to do season 3, we'll let you guys know and such.
Plus, I need to get my laptop fixed because the screen is having some problems, and yeah, I won't be able to edit the next episode, season 3 until I get my laptop fixed.
Yeah, and also too, I have other reviews I want to do on my main channel. I got some Let's Plays I want to do on the gaming channel as well. Which those that have seen the gaming channel, Toy Bunny and I have been discussing. We might start the last Professor Layton game next Saturday. Again, make sure you check out the gaming channel, which will be in the link in the description below. So if you guys want to see Professor Layton, keep an eye out for when Toy Bunny and I are ready to do that game, and we're very excited to do it. But yeah, so yeah,
I'm really excited for another reviews coming up as well too, which is I'm planning into doing some more with you guys.
I'm ready to do some more reviews with you, with Carter, with Toy Barney. Whenever we're ready to do another Thomas review or a different type of review, all we gotta do is just let each other know, and we can always plan whenever we're ready. But yeah, so this has been Sakura the Diesel saying thank you all so much for watching. If you guys have enjoyed this,
make sure to subscribe to me, James, Toy Bonnie, and Timmy.
Yes, yes. Make sure you subscribe to all of us. Check out all of their channels, which we'll make sure we'll put in the link in the description when we put this on the Review Bros. Yeah, speaking of the.
We will see you in the next video.
Hold on real quick. Just wanted else to say, make sure you all subscribe to my gaming channel. Make sure you all subscribe to the Review Bros and such. But yeah, like I said, as Carter said, We'll see you all in the next video. So take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Peace.
Peace.